Friday, everybody. Hope you're having a great one on this dreary day. Supposed to get better tomorrow as we enter into the Mother's Day weekend. So make sure you take care of your mothers, your wives, anybody that has children, because they deserve it. Bill Colarulo in with us today. Bill, how's things going?
Oh, good, my man. Good to have you back today.
It's good to be back. Ray, producing. Ray Dunn. Are you doing well today? And he's got a giddy-up outfit on today, for those that can't see.
He looks good today.
He does look good.
Feel good today.
He's got a nice light blue Union. Is it three-quarter or is it zip-up?
Full zip-up.
Full zip-up hoodie. Really snazzy. He's got sneakers to match. And then the hat I don't really know about.
I like the hat.
I do. I don't know what it is. Is it just a flowery hat? Is that what?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
There's no team assigned to it or anything like that?
No, it's just Nike check with a lot of flowers. Usually is a shore hat for me. I have to say an old friend of ours actually gave it to me. So.
Oh, is that right?
Quite nice.
Oh, that is very nice. People love to give you gifts, Ray. I guess you just have that personality.
I guess.
People like to give.
But man, that guy needs something.
His hoodie's very relevant today.
It is very, very relevant. His Union hoodie ads on these very airwaves on Saturday night at 7:30. You know who our play-by-play man for the Union game is going to be, Bill?
One of the best in the business, Ray Dunn.
That's right. Yeah, Ray gets the play-by-play duty on Saturday night. You may have heard the big story about the Union signing 14-year-old Cavan Sullivan to a contract. What?
Cavan Sullivan.
What did I say? Cavan. I'm sorry, Cavan Sullivan to a contract, 14 years old. And pretty cool. National story. This isn't just around here, but saw it everywhere yesterday. So what do? We get in touch with the Union head coach, Jim Curtin, and we say, yo, Jim, need you to come on and talk about it. So he's going to be with us at 1 o'clock today. All right, a whole lot of stuff going on, a lot of stories we want to get into, but we got to give you a glimpse of something first.
Now, the front page. The stories everyone's talking about. 97.5, The Fanatic.
All right, your Philadelphia Eagles, that's right. You had the coordinators talk yesterday as defensive coordinator Vic Fangio and offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. They spoke. They said what was on their mind. There's some interesting stuff there. And it's funny how we read differently into what coaches, assistant coaches, whatever, have to say. So I'll be anxious to talk with Bill about what they did put out there yesterday at their press conferences, and we'll get into that. We'll break it down a little bit of what they had to say. One thing that I really want to get into with Bill about later on, Kellen Moore says that he really likes Jaylen Hurts' mobility and something that they're going to use. I heard Connor talking about it this morning with John about what he thought of that. I have my own feelings. I'm sure Bill does too. So we'll take a look at it. Fangio, in my eyes, and this also comes from a little argument that I had with Connor Thomas this morning, by far has the toughest job in this organization right now. And we'll go over what he said about different positions, different players in particular. But, yeah, this defense, I still have a lot of questions about. Your Phillies, they were off yesterday. They sit at 26-12. 2 games up on the Atlanta Braves. I printed out this morning the ESPN power rankings that came out. We'll talk about your Philadelphia Phillies and where they rank in those power rankings of all of baseball. Also, before Wednesday, this was pretty cool. I saw this number out there. Before Wednesday, when they lost that afternoon game to Toronto, before that, the Phillies were 17-1 in the 18 games with Bryce Harper in the lineup. And during that time, Harper hit .333 with 6 home runs and 21 RBI. I'm going to give you some more stats on Bryce Harper later and how hot he has been. They go tonight in Miami at 7:10. Ranger Suarez takes his 6-0 and 1.72 ERA to the mound. He's going to face Trevor Rogers, who is 0-5 with a 6.15 ERA. The Marlins are already 16.5 games behind the Phillies in the conference. The Union, as we said, big signing yesterday with young Mr. Sullivan. Gotta love that, to the homegrown deal. I want to ask a question today because Connor and I were going at it during breaks of the morning show. How do you find a rooting interest in games where one of your teams isn't playing? I want to throw that question out there to you guys later on because Connor felt real strongly on that every game you watch, you have a rooting interest and you're rooting for a team. I went another way, and he doesn't believe me, and I was anxious to find out what everybody out there might have to say. On the national front, Cleveland Cavaliers last night, they slammed the Boston Celtics 118-94, even that series at 1 apiece. Dallas Mavericks beat the Oklahoma City Thunder 119-110 to even that series at 1-1. And it's going on and on and on and on up in New York. The Rangers get an overtime. They didn't play in New York, but another win for the Rangers. They go 3-2 overtime win against Carolina. They go up 3-0 in their series. The Knicks and the Pacers play Game 3 in Indiana tonight, where the Knicks are up 2-0 in that series. Like I said, hate to say it, but it must be a great time to be a New York fan. So there you have it. There's the front page headlines, and we're going to dig deeper into a lot of this stuff now. So yesterday, Bill, you were here sitting in for me as Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore took to the podium. So you guys got to play that. A lot of interesting thing to go through, and I'm going to start with Vic Fangio. And he said something yesterday that I think you and I can relate to, being elder statesmen at this radio station. And Fangio talked about how players haven't changed all that much, but they have changed a little bit.
They really haven't changed very much at all. What's changed is the people around them. People are not expecting as much out of players as we used to expect. And these players will work and give you everything they got within reason. And there's too much of, and that starts at an early age, when they're in high school, college, everybody, less is more type thing. They preserve your energy. You guys hear in the NBA and load management, and I talk to coaches from other sports that I know, and, it drives them crazy. But the players are willing to work. Never had an issue with that. And they're still willing to work. But we, as the so-called adults in the room, need to push them.
All right. I'm kind of torn on this one, Bill. What's it sound like to you? I get nervous. I hear what he's saying, and anytime a coach says he wants to push guys to make them better and all, I'm all for it. But is this relating to 23, 24, 25, 26-year-olds, or is this having those age guys look at him and say, man, this guy's telling me to get off his lawn? I'm anxious to hear what you have to say as a 40-year-old, and then I'm anxious to hear what Ray has to say as a generation younger.
So we listened to it, and I think the older generation's immediate reaction is, yeah, that's how you're supposed to coach. And you look at Vic Fangio, he's been in the NFL as a coach for 33 seasons.
Yeah.
He was a defensive coordinator for 20 years, so he has seen a change. But I just don't think that that's necessarily the way you treat players in today's world. It's just whether you agree with it or not. Now, this is Fangio saying this at a press conference. How he actually deploys this type of coaching strategy will be interesting to see. But we did hear coming out of Miami last year, the players weren't happy with Vic Fangio. They didn't love the way he coached them up. Now, a few of his former players came out and said that's because he's going to hold you accountable and he's going to make sure that you're not out partying and doing all these other things. So as a fan, as a 40-year-old fan, I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I love this. I want this type of defensive coach. But you're right. How does it play with certain younger players? Now, I think that the Eagles are smart enough that the players that they bring in here, this is going to fit the culture. If you have the right players, I think you can coach them that way. If you don't have the right players, like obviously in Miami they didn't have, you can't coach them that way. So it's interesting to see how it's going to all play out.
So you're of the younger generation there. What do you when you hear these say? Now it's funny. Part of me really it does sort of likes it. I wonder if Ray, the younger generation, hears it and it's like fingernails going down a chalkboard, and like, seriously, what? How did you take it?
I fought every natural instinct to tune out as soon as he started that answer, because it started like nails on a chalkboard. I was like, oh, here we go. Times have changed. Yeah, and I honestly thought he went a different way than I would have, because I like to think about how I would answer the question if I was in his position. You talk about 40 years, what's changed? Well, the lifestyle surrounding the NFL has changed. You know, the expectations of everything around you has changed. I thought the way I would have reframed that is that there's a great more deal of pressure and more scrutiny and more attention paid to you in the NFL, and I would have made it a little more sympathetic for the players. But I thought he did a good job of bookending it with I don't think they've changed. They still want to work hard. They're still great at their craft. We just have to keep pushing them. And I think I didn't hate the answer as much as my first gut instinct was, because it did immediately grab me as like, dude, really? Like, get off my lawn. And it still does. Listening back to it, I still sit there like, all right, I get it. Like, he's not trying to bring back two-a-days, but like you're starting to romanticize the idea of two-a-days again. Like, everyone has a problem with the less practice time until you win doing that, and then it's like, oh, we won't talk about that. The Eagles' way of doing things was wrong until you go do a Super Bowl, or you go to a Super Bowl. It's like, well, maybe they had something right. So I still don't love it as much. More I'm talking about, the more I'm getting a little annoyed with it.
Look,
but I can understand the way he's trying to frame it.
I'll tell you where I'm proud of you on this, though, Ray. And I'm not putting down your generation or anything like that, but Bill, maybe you agree that the fact that Ray heard the beginning, didn't like it, but didn't tune out. Because I would say more so that people your age would be like, oh, this guy, are you kidding me? Blip.
I mean, to be fair, it is my job.
It is your job. I understand all that. But to sit and to hear it, you could listen, but not hear it. I say that to people a lot. Like those, oh, you said this. I said, no, that's what you heard. You didn't listen. Like, listen to what's being said. You did. You stayed on it. I commend you for that. It does worry me, though, Bill. I swear. Because I've been around millions of press conferences where people are talking for the first time, whether it be players, GMs, coaches, owners, whatever. They're going to say stuff that's in their mind, that is set in their mind, their true beliefs, because it's your initial press conference, and you're putting out there, what do you go back to? What I truly believe. I worry that, like, this is what he truly believes, that, this generation, they kind of want to take it easy, and it's our job not to let them take it easy. I wonder if, like, one of the players was sitting there with his feet up yesterday going, oh, man, really? I don't know.
It's an interesting one. It really is. But you look at Nick Sirianni, who's still the head coach, and we'll get into that, but he doesn't necessarily have that mentality. We know that they've had the easiest practices over the last couple of seasons. And you look at last year, and Sirianni said after the season ended, we're going to potentially change the way we approach the preseason. We're going to change the way we approach training camp and whether or not these guys play. So maybe bringing in a guy like Fangio is a nice balance of that. I don't expect Fangio to come in here, though, and be the Vic Fangio he was 30 years ago, demanding that these guys do two-a-days like Ray's saying he wants to bring back. But I do think it's good because now we've got the complete opposite of the defensive coordinator they had last year. You had Sean Desai, who had 1 year of experience. Everything we heard coming out of the locker room was there was a lot of confusion. People didn't know what their assignments were. You're not going to get that with Vic Fangio. So what I did like, he talked about Jordan Davis. He talked about Jaylen Carter. These guys need to be in shape. And they may be sitting there thinking, oh, boy, here we go. But they have to be in shape. There's a reason why Jordan Davis hit a wall last year. There's a reason why Jaylen Carter hit that rookie wall last year. So if these guys truly want to win and they want to take that next step, I think Vic Fangio is a guy you should listen to.
I still think it, Bill, that one of the plays that defines last season for the Eagles, to me, is when Jordan Davis was trying to run down Josh Allen, right? And he doesn't get him on the sideline. And it wasn't overtime yet. I think, was it the fourth quarter or was it in overtime? I think it was the fourth quarter. And he didn't get him. Everybody's cheering, like, oh, my God, look at this 350-pound guy trying to run down a quarterback. And he laid down on the field and had like a half smile on his face. He was exhausted. Yeah. While he was laying there, I swear I saw it. I saw his football body leave his human body. And his football body just went drifting away, and we never saw it again for the rest of the season. You're right about him having to get in shape. And if Vic Fangio has to call somebody out for that, I don't mind that a little bit. So I commend him on some of the things that you just said. The other stuff that I like is on Vic Fangio, scheme is such a big thing, right? Like, every defensive coordinator that seems like the Eagles like, their scheme comes under the umbrella of Vic Fangio. Well, he also said scheme's important, but there's other things that are important to him if things aren't going all that well.
When things aren't going good, you need to go back to basics. You know, I'll tell the players early in camp that if we're struggling, don't expect me to magically scheme our way out of it during a game. We're going back to basics, and we're going to call the things that we've been practicing since day one, and we got to fight our way out of it. And if you don't have that foundation and you're always grabbing for the perfect call, you'll be okay for a little bit, but eventually you're going to get gashed.
So when he says going back to the basics as a defense under Vic Fangio, Bill, how would you translate that? What exactly is he saying back to basics under his kind of defense?
I think it's obvious what he means there is they're not going to do a lot of designs. They're not going to have a lot of blitzes. They're going to probably stay in that cover 4 shell that they like to do. And what we kept hearing last year was there was a lot of terminology. There was a lot of things that Sean Desai was asking the defense to do where you just didn't know what your responsibilities were. When you say to a defense, we're going back to basics, you're just going to line up and you're going to play. And you don't have a lot of stunts along the defensive line. You don't have a lot of blitzes coming from your linebackers. And everybody kind of knows what they're supposed to do and where they're supposed to be. It allows you to play faster. When you have to think on the defensive side of the football, that split second can be a huge difference. So I see him talking about we're just going to line up and we're going to play. We're not going to have any blitzes. Now, he doesn't blitz a lot anyway.
Right.
We know that he was 27th in blitz rate last season. But I love the idea of let's just go out there and let's just play when things aren't working, because when you don't know where you're supposed to be on the defensive side of the football, it's a recipe for disaster in the NFL.
It was funny. Growing up, you would hear the term old school, boom, basketball, football, whatever. So growing up, you're thinking, oh, old school, that's probably something I didn't, see before, so I want to see what it is. Now, because I'm at the age where I am, old school football, basketball is probably the kind that I grew up with. But, Ray, when you hear Vic Fangio talk, does old school defensive coordinator kind of come into your head, and is it okay?
I mean, the idea of it, yes, given the fact that most of this presser, like the presser started with 40 years ago, I started across the street, and it's like, okay, this is someone that's telling me I've got the cachet, I've got the experience, I'm the man in the room here. I'm the adult. I'm
old man in the room. Yeah.
I'm the man in the room. I'm not going to throw the old phrase at him, okay? I thought we got rid of all the talking about age on this program.
Oh, for others we can.
Okay, sounds good. Well, yeah, he kind of gives me that. And this seems like a lot of him pushing the players' accountability. Like, listening to that, too, I don't necessarily come away with the idea of going back to basics. I come back to the idea of, hey, if we're not playing well in a game, I've put you in the position to succeed. It's about you going out there and executing it. That's the way I hear that. I hear that as, hey, there's no magic fix to getting out of a situation where you're struggling. You got to go do it. I feel like he set himself up a little bit in this opening presser of really putting the onus on the players to do their job as compared to a lot of like the fan. Like, I mean, his one answer, what's been the best times for you as a coach? Well, we've had good players. Like, he has put a lot of emphasis on, hey, it's the players that have to go out there and do it, and it's not just about coaching.
He's not wrong. I mean, you look at that San Francisco 49ers game where the Eagles got punched in the mouth, and that started the decline of the entire season. How many missed tackles there were. How much it looked like the players just didn't want to bring Deebo Samuel to the ground. It didn't matter how you schemed it up on the defensive side of the ball against the 49ers. They came into the link, and they punched you in the mouth. So I kind of like this, where he's saying, hey, we're not going to have magic formulas all the time. You're not going to be able to scheme up the defense to stop the offense all the time. Sometimes it's a matter of will and want to and bringing the player to the ground. So, man, you could hear the different generations, can't you, with me and Ray?
It's funny. I love it. That's what makes our job so much fun to me. It's listening to you listeners when you call and check in and let us know the way you see things, the way I see things, Bill, Ray, whatever it may be. That's the funness of doing this show to me. That's what I love. Okay, first question I'm going to throw out there to you today, 610-632-0975, and Ben and everybody else will get to you as soon as we get back. Question I want to throw out to you. Sunday is Mother's Day, okay? If you're out there listening, most probably you played sports in some part of your life, or You've been around sports, whatever. What's your best mom story that you have when it concerns sports? Because I'll give you mine. I'll give you mine when we get back concerning my mom and me playing, and it's pretty funny. So if you have one, let us know, 610-632-0975, or you can text into that same number. We have that, a whole lot more on what Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore had to say yesterday. We'll also dive into the Phillies a little bit after their off day yesterday. A lot of stuff going on here. Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. welcome back. Hope you're having a great Friday. Hope you have a wonderful weekend planned out for yourself. Bob Cooney here along with Bill Colarulo. We got Ray Dunn producing. Want to remind you that it's Fanatic Friday. Fanatic Friday is presented by Pump Man Philly for 24/7 emergency repair or pump replacement. Count on Pump Man Philly, the guys to know to fix your flow. Okay, as we ended last segment, I said to you that I had a question out there for you, that I wanted to ask you a mom story. If you're listening, you love sports, right? So you either played or you watched somebody else play, whatever. You probably have a funny mom story. Now, this morning, Ray and I, before the show, I was on Twitter, and I was like, oh, my God, look at this kid's swing. So there was a video of a 7-year-old kid at a 7-year-old game, a left-handed kid, who gets a pitch and just has the most natural swing, baseball swing, that you're ever going to see. I didn't tell you the backstory of what it was, Ray. What it was you hear a mother before this 7-year-old gets up to bat and says, he doesn't want to swing. Like, seriously, 7-year-old game? So what it made me think of was mom stories. Mother's Day on Sunday. What's your mom's story going into as it relates to sports? And mine is this. So I went to a small little Catholic school, growing up, and not a lot of kids in the school. So I was lucky enough to, back then, anybody could make the varsity team. So I was lucky enough to make it, fourth grade or whatever. I'm playing in one of my first games as a fourth grader, I think I was, running down the floor. We must have either been blowing them out or they must have been blowing us out, because otherwise I wouldn't be seeing the floor. Anyway, a kid stepped on my ankle and rolled it pretty good, even though I was that young. And I went down on the court, and I was like, it was probably the first time. You remember, you're a little kid, the first time you get hurt? It was the first time I, hurt an ankle or something like that. So I'm laying on the court, and my mom's sitting over there on the side in a folding chair, and I'm just laying there, and I can't get up, and I'm in a lot of pain. But I'm looking at her, fourth grader. I'm looking at my mommy, and she's just sitting there, legs crossed, arms folded, trying to be a caring but not over-caring parent. So they stop the game, and they come out, and they're looking at me, and I'm like, yeah, I can't put weight on it. It hurts. So Mr. Hinkle, father of another player, comes over, scoops me up, takes me off the court. They take off my shoe. Game starts going. Game's going back and forth, and I'm looking over at my mom, very calm, very calm. So the game's going on. They take off my sneaker, and they notice that my ankle's swelling up pretty good. So they go to her yeah, you should come over here. Whoop! Off the chair, runs right across the court in the middle of the game. Almost gets run over by the play going on. So I'm sitting there, even as a fourth grader, going, damn, she was so calm and cool. And then whistles galore. They stop the game. She's right in the middle of the court. Anyway, comes over and go to the hospital and all that stuff. So, Bill, any sports stories growing up or anything that you know of a mom, I don't want to say interfering with the game, but having some part to do maybe with a game you were playing or somebody you know?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the stories with my mom, because she came to every sporting event. And for some reason, the one that keeps popping in my head, it's more funny than anything else, was in college, we had a game up in Rochester, New York. And I remember my mom came to every game and debating whether or not they were going to come, because it was a long trip. They were going to have to spend the night and all that. So they decide to come, and they drive all the way up, and they spend the night at the hotel. Game starts. First quarter, I get thrown out of the game. So,
I killed you.
Yeah. So that was a great trip for them to come up, and I get tossed. But I was in the right. Somebody hit my quarterback late, so I retaliated.
Absolutely.
You got to protect your quarterback, and I got tossed.
Yeah. Ray, how about you? I know you were a big-time runner. Just completed the Broad Street Run.
Yes, and I think that's where this story goes, because I think I finally found my mom's wits' end with my athletic endeavors.
Well, really?
Yeah, the freezing cold, rain, back-to-back years of the Broad Street Run. She always makes it. She makes a sign. She's very much still back in the cross-country running days of old. And this year the sign said, "Run, Ray, run. If it rains again next year, I'm not coming, so keep this sign." She's finally drew the line in the sand where it comes to watching me run, because she did it for a while, a very long time, and she's none too pleased with the cold, rainy mornings of the Broad Street Run right now.
Yeah, we had one more mom story, and it concerns my wife being a mother. Strong, silent type, does everything for the family, doesn't say a whole lot, doesn't get involved, asks questions all the time, but there was an instance where one of our kids was moved down from a team, but the team didn't contact her. and they just put it out on an email. And all the other girls are congratulating each other on a group text or whatever. And that's how my child found out about this. I was mad. Like, you don't do that as an adult. You know, you got to be an adult, let the kid know, because that's why you're the coach. Man, my wife, like the next practice, I wasn't there, calmly calls the coach aside. And from what I was told, I mean, this guy was about a foot tall when she got done with him. Like, she just berated him. And it wasn't because of our daughter. It was more because of, that's not the way you treat kids. Like, you're supposed to be the adult in the group, and you're not, and that's disappointing. So we got some good mom stories out there, along with all the great sports talk that we have. And Mike in New Jersey is going to start us off. Mike, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. Mike.
Hello. So I got a couple mom stories, but I'll tell probably I think the best one. So back in the day, I grew up in Pennsauken. We didn't play a whole lot of soccer unless you really knew how to play soccer. You played, otherwise you didn't play a whole lot. So I tried out.
You had a kid named Snyder who was a really good soccer player over there in Pennsauken.
Yes. Yeah.
How you like that?
So, and Bob, you and I share the same high school alma mater, and
okay, cool.
Bill C, I know you from when you were lawyering too, so sort of know you guys a little bit. But
cool.
So yes, so I'm not a soccer player, and my mom's like, what stuff do you need for the soccer, to play soccer? I'm like, I don't really know. I'm like, I think you need shin pads. So we go to the store and we get a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know what you need, right? So I go out and I'm on the best team, the black team, and I get out there and she suits me up and everything. And then I get out on the field for a good maybe 30 or 40 seconds. And what am I wearing? I'm wearing those old offensive lineman arm pads. Remember those old arm pads? So she suits me. She had tried to put a helmet on me. And I said, I don't think I need a helmet, Mom. So I saw him out there for a good 30 seconds to a minute in these old offensive lineman arm pads. And I was summarily hushed off the field and rushed off the field, and that was the extent of my soccer days. But we did win a trophy that I did not contribute to.
Oh, there you go, Mike. Thanks so much for the story. Really appreciate it. Moms are the best. They simply are the best. And watching, growing up with my mom, but then watching my wife be the best mother I've ever seen, it's really cool. And when it relates to sports, there's just a difference there, man. Like Ray, you talked about your mom with the sign, and did your mom say anything to you when you got kicked off the field?
Yeah, she wasn't too happy about it.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
I'd have been so pissed off at you. Weave on the cell wants to talk a little Nick Fangio. Weave, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Yo,
What's up?
I think that if he's got some players to work with, but it's not like our old coordinator, Jim Jones. You know what I mean?
Jimmy Johnson?
Jim Johnson, rather. Yeah, Jim Johnson had a lot better players, maybe, but I think that he really needs to come up with a scheme, and what he wants to run.
Do you trust him, Weave?
Huh?
Do you trust him?
Oh boy, you not yet. Not
okay,
yet.
that's fair enough. Thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
When he says they need to come up with a scheme, I mean,
He has a scheme,
you're
yeah.
literally talking to the creator of the Fangio scheme, a scheme that this team has tried to run with the cover band the last few years. Now they got the guy. And you look at the Miami Dolphins last year. They had injuries to Ramsey, Phillips, Chubb, Van Ginkel at times throughout the season. They still finished top 10 in yards against, top 8 in takeaways, top 7 in running yards against, 3rd in sacks, 3rd in pressure rate, and that's with the 27th blitz rate. So similar to the Jonathan Gannon school of thought, you're going to hopefully be able to get after the quarterback without blitzing the quarterback. And I know that makes some Eagles fans nervous because they want that Buddy Ryan defense. The 49ers were 30th in blitz rate. The Ravens were 25th in blitz rate. The New York Jets were 31st in blitz rate. You can have an aggressive defense without blitzing the quarterback. So Vic Fangio has a scheme. Don't get confused by what he said yesterday. This guy knows what he's doing. There's a reason he's been a defense coordinator for 20 damn years.
And it's a reason that they brought him in. His scheme specifically is what this organization likes. It's that bend, don't break kind of defensive scheme.
Yeah, they don't want to give up the explosive plays, and he was asked about that a little bit yesterday. That's what they try to limit because I know it frustrates a lot of people, but when you look at the NFL, it is difficult to go on long, sustaining drives consistently in a game. And the fact that the Fangio defense last year, top 8 in takeaways, that's something that this defense really struggled with last year. You look at the 2022 defense, they created 27 takeaways. And then last year, that number fell to 18. So a lot of the players they've added hopefully are going to be more of a ball hawk, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, some of these other guys. But that's what they need to get back to. You got to create turnovers if you have that bend but don't break defense.
Vic Fangio said some things yesterday that really perked my ears, and we're going to get to more of what he had to say. I have a huge concern when it comes to this defense, and it doesn't concern the players or the coaches on this defense. I'm sorry, I'm concerned about the offense, and it has nothing to do with the players or coaches on the offense, but it has to do with the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll explain to you what I'm saying. 10 o'clock hour, it's brought to you by Window Nation. Take advantage of Window Nation's 50% off sale on all style windows. Plus, make no down payment with no payments and no interest for 12 full months. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com. So when we get back, we're going to dive some more into what the coordinators had to say yesterday. I have some thoughts. I wonder if you guys agree with this. My concern about the Eagles' offense has nothing to do with anyone on the Eagle offense. I'll explain exactly what I mean when we get back. Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back, Middays. Bob Cooney with Bill Colarulo today. Ray Dunn producing. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. I know it's gloomy out there, but it is Friday. And for many people, the best day of the week. Getting ready for the weekend. Busy weekend it's going to be. And I know a lot of you will be gathered around the radio, especially at 7:30 tomorrow night as the Philadelphia Union play on these very airwaves. And the play-by-play announcer for that game on these airwaves will be none other than Ray Dunn right there. So you're pumped, Ray? You excited? You ready to go?
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait. This has been really cool. It's been a lot of talking to people this week, a lot of getting set for it. It's an awesome opportunity. It's awesome for the Union being back home. They were able to salvage a point up DC United, so should be a good one tomorrow night.
Now, in all honesty, the way that a soccer announcer is best known is for his goal call.
Oh, I like
Have you practiced one at all? Be honest. Have you sat in a room by yourself and maybe, let loose? Or
No, because I think if you force it, then you could end up being jumbled in your words because you just want to nail the goal call you have in your head. I think something will come naturally to you. I mean, I've called soccer a number of times before, but I don't think if you try and force a goal call, it'll probably sound, kind of corny.
Oh, okay. All right. So whatever comes naturally.
Yeah, whatever comes naturally.
Okay.
I will say, I talked to Dave Leno plenty of times before. His energy is unmatched, so I'm excited to see how I can live up to the energy he's got in those goal calls, because I know you hear the promotions on the station. He nails it every time.
Yeah.
He's great. So talking to him this week, I'm excited.
I think you're going to be great too, Ray.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm
Appreciate
going to make
that.
a sign for you like your mom
Oh,
did
that's very
for the
nice of
brush.
you.
Yeah, his mom will definitely be listening. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
She's P1. She listens every day.
Aw, yeah, love her. All right, let's get to Slick Rick from West Philly. Slick Rick, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, buddy?
Fellas, I just wanted to holler on the Eagles real quick.
Okay.
And I had a mom story real quick also. I'm going to give you the short story.
You got it.
First of all, with the Eagles, I think Vic Fangio has, a tough job. And I honestly think not to, throw dirt on this season, but I think next season will be a better season because they have a lot of young players. It'll take time for them to learn his system, and then they'll be better suited after the first year and be much improved next year and be on a Super Bowl run next year versus this year. Because to say, realistically, that the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl when there's turnover is a possibility, a lot of young drafted players and a new defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator, usually it's the year after things are in place that they improve. Now, my mother-in-law...
all right, real quick, though, what are your
Okay, go ahead.
expectations?
Yeah.
What are your expectations for this year, Rick?
Playoffs and maybe win a game, honestly, in the playoffs, not a long run because of the inexperience. On the defensive side of the ball, mostly, I think they'll score a lot of points. There'll be a lot of high-scoring games, but I honestly don't think that, this is the Super Bowl year. Whereas next year, I think it will be because they would have learned both systems on both sides of the ball, and those young guys would have had a year's experience under their belt, and they'll be able to excel better next year.
Okay, fair enough. What's your mom's story?
And my mom's story. All right. Now, honestly, it's not my mom because she's not into sports. It's my mother-in-law. Basically, once upon a time, I lived in Ypsilanti, Michigan. My kids, their uncle, all right, my mother-in-law's two sons, they were really good in basketball, all right? They were recruited by Michigan, what have you. They were playing against Country Day. At this time, it was Chris Webber, and we're at the Country Day gym. And my mother-in-law never missed a game. Anyway, there was a block charge call, and it definitely was a block. One of her two sons, which were on the court, she gets up and she starts yelling. Everybody turns around and boos. Maybe 5 minutes later, her oldest son comes down the middle and dunks on Chris Webber's face. It was actually the front page of the sports. She got up and started yelling and stomping her feet on the thing, and they turned around and everybody stood up. It was like, boo! 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 Sit down! I couldn't believe it. I was so embarrassed. I wanted to go underneath the bleachers. But I loved it.
That's great.
I loved her enthusiasm.
Rick, have a great weekend. Thanks so much for the story. There's nothing bigger than a passion, a mother for her child. And, when something like that happens, it is absolutely incredible. But this Vic Fangio stuff, I said it before the break, and I'll tell you what I mean. You have A.J. Brown. You have Devontae Smith, Jaylen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert. A good, if not really good, offensive line in place with this offense. So what could concern you, Bob Cooney? What is it that concerns you? It's the defensive side of the ball that concerns me. Is this Vic Fangio defense going to be able to get off of the field? Now, obviously, I don't expect him to be on there for the 90 plays and however huge misbalance in a time of possession. But, Bill, it's a legitimate concern in my mind that this defense, I still have a lot of trepidation. Are they going to be able to get off the field enough so this offense can shine the way it should?
It's definitely a valid concern. And for me, it's not about Vic Fangio, the concern. It's whether or not they have the players. And he said that yesterday. What makes a defense a good defense? And he said, good players. So you look at it, and they still have major question marks at linebacker. I've talked about this before. We don't know what the sure thing is at linebacker because you don't have one. You don't know what you have in Nakobe Dean. You don't know if Devin White is going to be able to bounce back from the off year he had. He got benched last year in Tampa. I think people don't realize that because I've had some people come at me saying, Devin White's an all-pro. He was benched by the Buccaneers. That's how bad things were last year. Then you have, which surprised me, when Vic Fangio was specifically asked about the linebacker position, the first name he mentioned for inside linebacker was Zach Baun. Now, Zach Baun is built like an outside linebacker. A lot of us assumed he was going to be more of that Andrew Van Ginkel type role that they had in Miami, more of an edge rusher. But the fact that Fangio said, well, Zach Baun, we think, can play inside linebacker, I thought that was interesting. So for me, when I look at the defense, you have to figure out who are your starting linebackers, and that's why I think your concerns are valid.
Yeah, let's hear what he had to say about this linebacking core. This is Vic Fangio speaking at his press conference yesterday.
I think they're off to a good start. We've got Baun here who's played a little bit of inside linebacker in New Orleans. He really didn't play a whole lot of defense there, but he was inside some, more outside. We think he can play inside, and I have not seen anything so far that says otherwise. Obviously, we got Devin here from Tampa. You guys are well aware of him. He had a great career going, had a down year last year for whatever reason. We hope to get him back to where he was. Nakobe's on the mend from his injuries last year.
It's funny. He's just talking one position. First guy he brought up, he's talking about playing a position that he hasn't played all that much. The second guy that he brought up, he talks about, he had a down year last year. We don't know why. And, Bill, as you said, Devin White was benched. The third guy he brings up in Nakobe Dean, well, we've watched it here for 2 years. There are no questions that have been answered by Nakobe Dean. This defense is, to me, it's scary not knowing what they're going to be because there's question marks everywhere for me.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Zach Baun's snap counts last year. So he lined up along the defensive line really as an outside edge rusher, 252 snaps. Only played inside the box 33 times. And you go back to 2022, only played inside the box 6 times. So you have to go all the way back to 2021 where he played a majority of his snaps at inside linebacker. So, and it's interesting because I know these Pro Football Focus grades, some people don't like them, but the year he played a majority of his snaps at inside linebacker, his overall grade was a 44.6. That's on a 100 scale, so 44 is not good. So the fact that they're trying to convert a guy who's never really played that position well, that makes me even more concerned.
Yeah, I heard the word thrown around concerning this team over the last couple days from another show as this team's going to be great this year. I'll tell you, I have real trepidation about this defense still. So we'll look a little bit deeper into that. Also, we'll get into Kellen Moore and what he had to say offensively about it. Our question out there today in honor of Mother's Day, call with one of your sports points or questions or whatever it may be. But then if you have a funny mom story, a mom story when it comes to sports, how it relates to it, we'd love to hear it at 610-632-0975. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic. Welcome back on this Friday morning as we're just past 11 a.m. Hope you're having a great day. It is amazing, Bill. You and I were comparing this today on our drives-in. Drives-in? On our drives-in? Drive-ins? Drives-in. Because he drove in and I drove in. That makes two drives. You gave me a look like you were my English teacher. That's why I was explaining myself.
Drives-in is that?
Ray Dunn.
Well, we both drove in.
We both drove in. We could say that'd be a lot easier.
Good. Yeah, it'll work.
See,
on our commutes. How about that?
On our commutes. Sometimes I need a word editor, Ray. So I appreciate you
Happy
in
to
that
be here.
department. But how easy it is coming in on a Friday.
Completely.
And then today I park in our parking lot, and it's still at 11 o'clock, like empty. A lot of people have the luxury since the pandemic, I guess, of working from home. And they pick Fridays, and that's a good day to choose. I don't know. I don't have the discipline, man. I don't know if you do or not. I don't have the discipline when I'm at home to work as well as I do in an office.
Well, I was running the law firm when the pandemic hit, so I was, I think, more productive at home. You just sit up there and just go, man.
Can't. TV is calling me. The refrigerator's calling me. You know, I can make myself a nice, bacon sandwich or something. And
I prefer to come in, though. I'm a creature of habit, so I like getting my coffee. I like to commute. See, one year I worked next door. My office was next door to my house, and I hated it because I had no commute. I love the commute because I love listening to 97.5 The Fanatic.
Oh, look at that plug.
That's so great.
I'll tell you.
I'm cool being home.
You want to know what else is great? How about the Fanatic Deal of the Week? Pauhana Tiki Boat Tours. Set sail with the Fanatic Deal of the Week. This week only, get the first 6 spots for your private Tiki cruise from Pauhana Tiki Boat Tours for half off. It's just $225. You're going to float on the Ocean City Bay on a private 26-foot cruise equipped with thatched roofs, club-quality speakers, and barstool seating. Get this exclusive offer while supplies last at 975thefanatic.com/deals. Okay, we got a lot going on today as we're reacting to the press conferences yesterday from the coordinators of your Philadelphia Eagles, and that's defensive coordinator Vic Fangio and offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. And I said, are you guys as concerned about the defense as I am? Because, when I hear this, I'm pumped. This team could be great this year. They're going to be back to more towards what they were 2 years ago and all of these things. The first thing that comes into my head, and I don't like to be, the wet blanket, but is this defense better than it was last year at the end of the year?
It's kind of hard to be worse, Bob. I mean, that defense was so bad
That's
last
a good
year.
answer.
It really was. But, look, we went into last season losing both of our linebackers from the year before, losing both of our starting safeties from the year before, and a lot of fans said, it's fine. The offense is just going to outscore everybody. But the defense was so bad. 26th in the league in yards against, 30th in points against, 31st in passing yards against, 31st on third down, 30th in red zone defense. This defense was terrible. So I agree with you that I still have those concerns, but I do think they will be better because they were just so bad last year. You've added Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to the back end. Hopefully Sidney Brown is healthy and takes a leap in year 2. You've added some young rookies that you're praying are going to be able to contribute, but the guys that I'm really leaning on are the second and third year guys. Now's their opportunity to take that leap. Jalen Carter in his second year, no rookie wall, man. Nolan Smith in your second year, you got to show you're worthy of that first-round draft pick. I'm expecting big things from Keely Ringo, but it's those third-year guys, too, the Jordan Davis, the Reed Blankenship, the Nakobe Deans at linebacker. These guys have to show that they can play at an NFL level. So as the concerns I have at the linebacker position, there's also a very high upside, I think, more than what you had last year when you've added guys like Devin White, now Zach Bond, maybe even Jeremiah Trotter Jr. So I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was last year.
So they lost their best defensive player in the offseason.
Hassan Reddick, yeah.
They replaced him with a guy that you didn't even mention there. This is what concerns me, and it has nothing to do with you not mentioning him, Bill, because I'm right on step with what you're saying. But we didn't even mention Bryce Huff, and that is the guy that is replacing the best defensive player on this football team. Another concern for me, what is your confidence level in Bryce Huff? Because, you just went through a myriad of things of what they have to do, and I don't say it just because it's you, Bill. Bryce Huff's name is rarely mentioned on this radio station. Rarely when you're talking about the defense. They talked this morning, I believe, about the most important player or who might be the best player on that defense, and like Darius Slay's name came up. Yeah. What's your confidence level, and you probably know him better than I, in Bryce Huff?
Well, the issue with Bryce Huff, and Fangio mentioned it yesterday when he referred to him as he was a part-time player in New York. Because he was, as good as he was with the pass rush, he didn't play a lot of the snaps. I think he only played about 40% of the snaps because he was a liability against the run. So the big question with Bryce Huff is, can he take that bigger role with the defense? Is he going to be able to turn into a player that's not only a pass rush specialist, but can be an every down edge rusher? But what the Eagles are hoping is, the answer to that question is yes. And they're also hoping that Nolan Smith takes that leap and that you get the same level of production from those two guys combined that you would get from an Hassan Reddick, because we talk about how bad the defense was last year. The reason why they were so damn good in 2022 was because of the fact that they could get after the quarterback. 70 sacks, number one in sacks. Well, guess what that translated to? The number one pass defense. Last year, 70 sacks drops all the way to 43. And now they go to the 31st pass defense. So in a Vic Fangio-style defense, you have to be able to put pressure on the quarterback to help you on the back end. So, yeah, I mean, we need to see Bryce Huff take that leap as an every-down edge rusher.
Yeah, when I listen to people talk and read stories about the Philadelphia Eagles, I always go into it with a hesitancy of, this defense, I have major questions about. Are we overlooking that there are major questions about that defense? Now, I talked to you about what scares me about the Eagles' offense. Isn't anybody on the Eagles' offense. I really like the talent they have. I like Kellen Moore. I think they could do really good things. My concern is that this defense isn't going to get off the field. So let's converse that. Let's switch that around a little bit. Is this Eagles' offense good enough to stay on a field and maybe hide this defense a little bit? Everything would say yes, right, Bill?
Well, when you say stay on the field, that's one of the things that I really loved that Kellen Moore said yesterday. When they asked him specifically about Saquon Barkley, he talked about him being a premier running back and that he was excited to see him run the football. Now, he did mention taking advantage of some of other Barkley skill sets, none more than catching the ball out of the backfield. But one of the problems that I saw last year with the offense was they were so focused on the explosive play. We know Nick Sirianni loves the explosive plays, that when you score quickly, what does that mean? Your defense is back on the field.
Right.
So I do want to see this offense, as good as they are, as high-powered as they are, I would like to see them every once in a while take the pressure off their defense by saying, let's go on that long, methodical drive. We got a good offensive line. We have Saquon Barkley. We have Jaylen Hurts, who has the ability to run the football, which Kellen said he also wants to see him do.
Yeah, I want to talk about that a little bit.
That was music to my ears. So that's what I think they do need to do, is lighten the load. Last year, you're going out there and you're dropping back, throwing bombs to A.J. and Devontae Smith, putting your defense right back on the field when you knew they weren't good enough.
Yeah. Let's hear from Kellen Moore a little bit. He was talking about, with so many weapons that he has, how's he going to kind of identify this offense?
I think the biggest thing is having clear identity of who we want to be, and ultimately week in and week out understanding their role, certainly through a game. There's going to be certain games where guys are going to get more attention than others. Understand that you're a big part of it. You may have the big-time assist on a play, that gives us an opportunity for someone else to score a touchdown. And maybe the next week now it goes vice versa, and someone else has to help the other guy out. And so I think there's that continuous trust as we build this thing.
I like that answer, because my favorite thing about coaches is making adjustments. But I wonder if this defense is, and I think they will, struggling in a game. They're not playing well at all. I don't know, say it's the 5th game of the season, and you know what the offense is and all. Is it incumbent upon Nick Sirianni to maybe go over to Kellen Moore's job is to get his team to score points. And I'm sure I don't care how you do it. If it takes a bomb first play of the game and boom, you score 7 points, that's what his goal is. That's understandable. If the defense does start to get down, does start to just not play well, is it incumbent upon Nick Sirianni to go over to Kellen and say, hey, Kellen Moore, listen, let's score, but let's take our time doing it. Could a head coach be like that, do you think, Bill?
He could, but he didn't do it last year, so I'm not expecting him to do it this year because as bad as things were last year, they never really committed to the run. But I do think that there's a false narrative out there about Kellen Moore, and I talked about this yesterday on the show with Amy. A lot of people say, well, he doesn't like to run the football. Kellen doesn't like to run the football. And I think that that is a false narrative. You go back to when he was the offensive coordinator in Dallas in 2022. They had a top 10 rushing offense. They were top 6 in the NFL in rushing attempts. You go back to 2021. They had the number 1 offense in the NFL. Again, a top 10 rushing offense. So I think what a lot of people are focused on is what he did last year with the Chargers because they were 24th in the league with rushing attempts. But that team was so bad. They had injuries. The offensive line was bad. So I do think that Kellen Moore is going to run the ball, and you didn't pay Saquon Barkley to not give him the football.
Right. Lots of Eagles talk today here middays. And if you want to chime in, 610-632-0975. Also, in honor of Mother's Day this Sunday, you have any story about your mom and sports? Maybe something funny that happened while you were playing, while you were watching her watch games? We'll take all of that. John in South Philly, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, John?
Hey, how you doing, Bob?
Good.
First off, hats off, man. You're doing a great job on the show. I really enjoy it.
Oh, thank you, buddy.
I enjoy the addition of Amy. I actually seen her on TV the other day in the morning. But, my story is like I was a fat kid growing up, right? And playing Little League. I was born in '61. So playing Little League, everybody in the neighborhood signed up and this and that and had to make a certain weight. So they put you in trash bags all day long in the summer, right?
You had to make weight for Little League baseball?
Football.
Oh, football. I thought you said baseball. I'm sorry, John.
No, football, right?
All right.
Then once in a while, when they got closer, the parents would take us up to the sweat room at Kamak Street and they'd sit in there while they went and had a dinner somewhere or whatever. But my mom, when I was doing such a good job at night when my dad went to bed, she's like, oh, you did so good. How about we go get some ice cream, Because obviously she didn't want me to play, right? And then one time she expressed to the coach that she really didn't want me in there, all the time. And he's like, you don't have to worry about that one. He ain't going to be in there very much at all. But, and he talked about it. Actually, the coach talked about it years later. Like, we was all together in a different meetings, different organizations. And he said one of the funniest things that happened was your mom coming up saying that she was concerned about how much you're going to play when you're like 30 pounds you had to lose and all.
Wow.
But other than that, great job.
Thanks,
My brother's
John.
in the nursing home. He lives for this show, man. Take care.
Oh, you're the best. Thanks so much, John. Appreciate the nice words. Mothers are a different breed, man. Like I just watch, and all my friends, it's really cool. Friends, as you know, Bill, my best friends are still my best friends from growing up. So watching them become fathers and watching how they treat their kids and watching their wives. And in some cases, some of my friends married the girl that they dated in high school. Like, to watch them become mothers and all, it's cool. And Ray, when you get a little older and you get to sit back and actually, I'm not saying you don't appreciate your mom, but when you watch your friends become parents and fathers and mothers, there's nothing to compare to a mother in this world. Like, nothing. They are just spectacular beings. All right, Kellen Moore, let's get back to this Eagles offense just a little bit. So he was talking yesterday about so many things because he is new to this. Bill and I think, may disagree on this, and it's about how he is going to use Jaylen Hurts in the run game.
Certainly what Jalen's done in the run game is there's a handful of guys who can do this in this league, and so it's certainly a really advantageous thing that we can continue to utilize, and certainly we will. And so it's a process that I've enjoyed, just better learning about how we've been able to use him, and then exploring some other ways as we continue to grow this thing, how we can continue to build off of that. And so it's something that Jalen's done a phenomenal job with, and we'll obviously continue to embrace.
I embrace. Bill, let me put it this way. I'll lay out my let's play lawyers here. I'll lay out my statement, and then it'll be your turn. I am all for Jaylen Hurts being the threat of a runner. How do you become the threat of a runner? You run. So I am for that. I think it's an integral part of the offense. I think it keeps defenses on their heels, and it opens up other things for this Eagles offense with his threat. I think Kellen Moore, one of the words that he used was what was it? The word that he used, advantageous. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm all for advantageous. I am a little leery of putting in running plays, multiple running plays a game for Jaylen Hurts. I think more of the running, how it becomes advantageous, is kind of on the fly. What say you?
I understand the concern that you and some fans have about injuries, but this is the way you win with Jaylen Hurts. You run the football, you call design runs, you go back to the RPO, and you have him pull it at times to run. Listen to some of these stats, Bob. Last season, 10-1 start. Jaylen Hurts averaged 10.4 carries a game during that 10-1 start. 1-6 finish. Jaylen Hurts averaged 6.3 carries.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting.
You look at his career. He only has 20 losses in his career. 16 of those 20 losses came when he had 10 or less carries. He's 20-16 with 10 or less carries. When he has more than 10 carries, they're 16-4. And when he has more than 13 carries, they're 10-0. So you win the game when Jaylen runs. I'm not saying he needs to run the ball 14 times, but they're 10-0 when he does. But I just think that when you have a weapon like Jaylen Hurts, you have to take advantage of what he does well. And I get the injuries, but we've seen quarterbacks get hurt in other ways.
Sure.
You know, you can get hurt inside the pocket.
No question. He could go back and snap his ankle on a 5-step drop.
So he needs to be sure that it's not run the ball less, it's just protect yourself a little bit better.
Right. And I've described myself to you about this before, and many times I've said it on the air. I never watch sports with injury in my mind. I don't. And I'm not saying I don't want Jaylen Hurts to run because I don't want him to get hurt on a play. I just mean the continuous beatdown is more the way I think about it. Like, where are you at the end of the year? I don't know what it was last year, and we still haven't heard, but when I watched highlights in 2022 of Jaylen Hurts and watched highlights in 2023, I got to tell you, Bill, the quickness and the speed, they were not close to compare.
Yeah, he definitely had that knee injury. At one point, he was wearing the brace on the knee, and I was expecting, like a lot of people were, that when the season ended, you were going to hear about some sort of knee clean out or some sort of scope.
Yeah.
But then you saw him at the Pro Bowl games, and he's jumping around.
Playing flag football.
So I think there was something going on there early that definitely slowed him down. The burst wasn't there, but it has to be a part of the game.
I agree. I agree it has to be part of it. I don't know. It's weird how I'm speaking this out, and it goes against what my norm. When I watch a football quarterback, somebody like Jaylen Hurts, yeah, I want to see him out there creating and doing all those things. I guess what I'm saying is I don't need to see the designed runs maybe as much, but your numbers tell you, yeah, if it wins you football games, you do it. I'm all for winning football games. I don't watch games with injury in the back of my mind. I never have. You have a Saquon Barkley now, too. So maybe it's somebody that you rely on, maybe a little bit more. I don't know. It's weird that I'm talking one way, but I do kind of think another.
Yeah, I understand it. I understand it. But what we could talk a little bit about after the break, too, is the RPOs, because that was something that they did so effectively in 2022 with Shane Steichen the year they went to the Super Bowl. And then last year, a lot of people were scratching their heads saying, well, what happened to the RPO?
I don't think he had his quickness last year. An RPO, as you know, is quick. Obviously, it's a read first. But then if you're holding on to the ball, your first move is to beat the guy that didn't make the move to go to the run, or made the move to go to the running back, and now you're keeping the ball. That's quickness to me. That's a phone booth move. I don't think he had that quickness last year, Bill. I think you raise a good point. I thought there was going to be something during this offseason about, oh, yeah, he was hindered because of. Now, congrats to the Eagles for maybe hiding something, or maybe there was nothing there, but I'm telling you, if you go back and look at clips of him in 2022 and then of last year, man, he just looked a lot slower. Okay, when we get back, we have some text about mom's sports stories, which we are going to get to. We'll talk a little bit about your Philadelphia Phillies because a ranking came out yesterday, and it portrays them as a pretty good baseball team. We'll take a look at that and a whole lot more. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. 11:30 on this Friday morning. Hope everybody's having a good day out there. Plug through today, and then it's the weekend. Can't wait for that. Hope you have a fun weekend planned and something wonderful for your mother, your wives, whatever it may be, as Mother's Day is on Sunday. I want to tell you the 11 o'clock hour. It's brought to you by Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. All right, a lot of Eagles talk so far today. I want to dip over to another side of the sports world, Bill. And what I'm talking about is, yes, your Philadelphia Phillies.
Are they playing well right now, Bob?
I have a report here, Bill. And I believe this might have been the first one that came out. But ESPN put out their MLB rankings after the Phillies lost to Toronto on Wednesday. So I think it came out yesterday. They list all of the teams in baseball in order, worst first to last. Let's see if you guys, I'll go with you and Ray. You get first guess. Give me the top 5 teams in baseball right now. See if you guys can hit the rankings. Bill, I'll start with you.
Top 5. You want them in order?
No, just give me one team that you think might be in the top 5.
I think the Fighting Phils have to be.
Your Fighting Phils are at number 2.
Whoa.
Ray?
Dodgers.
Dodgers, number 1. They've been on fire lately, just swept the Braves. So you have numbers 1 and 2. You need 3, 4, and 5. What say you, Bill Colarulo?
Baltimore Orioles.
Baltimore Orioles are coming in at number 3. Look how good you guys are, or else you read this before we came on air. Number 4, Ray. I have a feeling we might not get the number 4 team.
I'll go with the Braves.
The Braves are number 4. Number 5, Bill?
New York Yankees.
Man, you guys read well. Very good. Not only did you get the top 5, you got them in order.
Wow.
Very, very good. Yeah, you're fighting Phillies. Coming in at number 2. They go again tonight, 7:10 down in Miami. They will play the Marlins with Ranger Suarez, 6-2, 1.72 ERA. Ranger Suarez on the mound. We talk about confidence and what you have or don't have in teams an awful lot. Confidence level of this Phillies team, I know it's only 37 of 162, Bill, but where do you sit? Like, where do you sit in the grand outlook of this team for this season?
Confidence is high. Confidence is really high. How could it not be? But what we've learned about baseball, though, it doesn't always go to the best team every single season. I'm sure the Braves and the Dodgers the last 2 years had a lot of confidence, and they didn't make it to the World Series. So I'm confident. I think that they're playing some of the best baseball we've seen in quite some time. Their pitching is good. Their bats have woke up in a big way over the last couple of weeks. So I'm confident. It's hard. It's unlike other sports where it doesn't always go to the best team in the postseason.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And we saw that last year in the with the Phillies and the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're also talking about mom stories today. Stories about your mom or somebody else's mom concerning sports, and Mike on the cell might have one of those. Mike, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. Good
morning, buddy.
So I just wanted to call and just make a quick point about the Phillies and share a mom story. But for me personally, I love seeing the success of not trailing this early in the season, like how they normally are. But for me, I think it's also great to see the success of Alec Boehm, with him really going through the ringer the last couple of years, and just the success he's really displayed this year. He's been a really strong point for us, and I'm just happy to see it.
I like watching homegrown young kids grow, and Alec Boehm, Bryson Stott, in those two, we have 2 fun guys to watch grow with this team, right, Mike?
Yeah, totally. And it's great to see. I mean, with this regime that we have, you know, with Dombrowski and everybody else, it's just really great to see that everything's just coming into fruition for this team, because they really deserve it, because they're really trying to win. But it's when they're homegrown like that, it's phenomenal, you know?
Yeah, it is cool. What's your mom's story?
So my mom taught me how to throw a baseball when I was younger. So for me, the Phillies have always had a special place in my heart. And one day back in 1996, she actually took me out of school, didn't tell me about it. I got called down to the principal's office, so they told my teacher. So I went down there. My mom was there. And what happened was she ended up taking me to the Phillies home opener that year in 1996. So for me, for her to surprise me like that, times were tough. So it was really special, and that's something I'll always remember about her. For sure.
Mike, that is awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that story. That is terrific. I have another mom story. Bill, I may have told this on the air another time, but I don't know if I was with you or not. So I was a little kid. Grammar school, first, second grade. I could probably do it if I did the math, but I don't feel like it. I'm not that smart. My mom comes to, so when you had recess, they would assign moms to come and watch recess to make sure kids didn't run in the street and didn't get in fights and all those things. My mom comes down, and we're walking out of the lunchroom to go outside for recess. And my mom's down there, and she's out there. I come walking out. I think I was in first grade, if I'm doing the math in my head correctly. And I walk out, and she goes, "Hey, Hank Aaron has a chance tonight to pass Babe Ruth as the all-time home run leading hitter." I swear I'll never forget it. And walking past and going, my mom is cool. Like, that's cool. And then remember, I'll never forget, it was a Monday. And then that night, going up into my sister's bedroom, she had a small little TV because I wanted to be alone. I don't know why. I wanted to be alone to watch this. And I turned on, it was the Monday night baseball game of the week. So I turned on like Channel 6, and I'm sitting there. And sure enough, Al Dowling, I think it was, left-handed pitcher for the Dodgers, throws it, and boom. Hank Aaron hits the home run to become the all-time. And I remember just sitting there saying, I'm watching history. Like, it might have been the first time that I was watching history being made in a sport. All because my mom came down not that I wasn't following sports then, but she just came down to let me know, you got to watch Hank Aaron tonight. Thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, nothing like a knowledgeable mom when it comes to sports.
It's pretty cool. I shouldn't say pretty cool, but it was pretty cool that in my mom's obituary, which was written by our friend Eddie Barkowitz, friend of the show, who did a phenomenal job, but Phil Mickelson's name is in my mom's obituary because every weekend, how's my boy Phil doing? She loved Phil Mickelson. It might have been a
lefty fan.
Yeah, she was a lefty fan, no question. Karate Mark, he's on the line. I know he's got a mom story. How you doing, Mark?
I am doing wonderful on this rainy day. For real, it's a great day. How you guys doing?
Doing great. No complaints at all.
Yo, I'm loving all these mom stories. Moms are the absolute best. Sorry, dads, y'all are second. Moms are the best in the world. They really are.
Hey, as a dad, I'll agree with you. They are first. I might not even be in second.
And, yo, I got the greatest story of my mom ever. So before there was me and Alicia watching every basketball game together, there was me and Mom watching every basketball game together. And we were huge, huge Barkley fans. And when he got traded over to the Suns, we became huge Suns fans. And we're watching the Suns play the Bulls, and it's the evil empire. We want nothing more than Barkley to win. But Mom's out of town during that series. So how am I going to watch every minute of every game of this series if Mom's out of town for work? She bought like a dozen or so calling cards. So while she was in her hotel at nighttime, we spent every minute of that series on the phone together. Calling card would run out. She'd be like, 2 minutes later, call me back right away on the new card. And that's one of my most fond memories of me and my mom.
That's awesome. And I've been lucky enough to meet your mom, I believe.
Yeah. She's a pretty cool chick, man. She's all right.
She is awesome. Mark, you are the greatest. Hope you have a great weekend, you and Alicia, and we will talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Go Philly. Happy Mother's Day to all.
Attaboy. Karate Mark on the line.
And I remember that series he's talking about because for some reason growing up, I was a big Dan Marley fan.
Yeah.
Who played for the Phoenix Suns. And
Yep.
I wanted to see them beat Jordan so badly that season, but that didn't happen.
Marley had a restaurant right near where the Phoenix Suns play, and it was always on the walk back to my hotel, and they had fantastic wings. And went in there one night after a Sixers game, got done writing my story, walked right in there, ordered some wings, had a beer, whatever, and then walked back to my hotel, which was a few blocks away, and realized that I left my computer in the bar.
That does not sound like Bob to leave things places.
No, that doesn't sound like the Bob Cooney I know.
I may have run as fast as I've ever run as an adult to get back there, and sure enough, it was sitting right there, right where I was sitting. So.
I think that's actually an all-time. That might just strike on just about everything Bob Cooney I could imagine. Sixers, leaving something behind, and a nice ice-cold beer. I think that might be like the holy trinity of Bob Cooney right there.
Yeah, it could be. I didn't used. No, I did. I'm lying. I was going to say I didn't used to be forgetful of things, but if I did say that out loud, my wife, I think she might come in here and punch me because I am so bad at leaving things, places, and I'll walk around, be talking on the phone with somebody, and be looking for my phone.
That's tough.
It is tough. It's not an easy way to go through life. All right, we have some text messages about moms, you said, Ray. Let's get to some of them if you don't mind.
Yes, we do. We got a couple of people checking in with some good mom stories. One that was great, Mike in media checking in with us, saying that his mom got his high school basketball team a technical foul and got ejected during his junior year in a basketball game because he was getting crushed and getting no calls. She never missed a game, and he wants to make it clear she was not the coach. So a tech from the stands for Mike from media's mom.
All right. I got thrown out at one of my kids' games one time. The ref was wrong to do it. It was funny. It was one of those games, Bill, it was a soccer game, where the parents were all over the referees from both schools. And we all sat on the same side because there was only one row of bleachers. So the referee then started looking up and going back and forth with the parents. Came over one time, looked up at the fan, and I said, Dad, don't worry about them. And before I could say, I said, don't worry about them. You're doing fine. I was basically saying, don't listen to parents. It's okay. He looks up right at me and goes, you, out. I was like, I was trying to protect you, man. I'm on your side. I don't think parents should be talking to you. So I had to listen. I had to go back up, make that walk of shame to the car. I go to my car and stand out there, wait for the game to get over. Game gets done, and I'm standing there waiting for my daughter to come out. And the referee literally, came running up. He's like, dude, I am so sorry. He said, he goes, as soon as I did it, I realized what you were saying, but I had to make an example of somebody, and I got you, and I'm sorry. I said, no sweat. I just want you to know that, I was not berating you or anything like that. So that's a funny dad story maybe, but I don't think my wife or daughter was real appreciative of that.
No, but it didn't sound like he did anything wrong.
No, not too bad. Any more, Ray? Got any more mommy stories?
Yeah, Deshaun from Ambler checking in, saying that when he was in high school on the wrestling team, he had a very animated coach that was always jumping down and screaming during the match. One of the tournaments, he was so hyped up during his match, he jumped and split his pants. Luckily, Deshaun's mom had the sewing kit and was able to sew up the pants mid-match while this was all going on.
See? Mothers, they're always at the ready. Yeah, I don't.
Sewing kit to
tough.
a wrestling match. I mean, that's.
Well,
that's
I mean,
just
you're
top
not wearing
tier.
a whole lot at a wrestling match, so if you gotta, you gotta get something to cover it up. I mean, that's just what you gotta do. But great mom stories today. Let's continue them. Give us a call about some of the sports things going on in the city, what we've talked about. I'm going to dive in a little more to what Kellen Moore had to say yesterday about the offense, because if you're thinking of Philadelphia Eagles this season, I think that has to be your first good thought, is how well this offense may play. Bring us your mom stories. I also have something I want to bring up at 12 o'clock of something that's going to be debuting in sports, and I want to get your thoughts on it. So we have that, a whole lot more. Bill Colarulo's here with us for the rest of the day. I'm Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Here on Middays, 97.5 The Fanatic. Bill Colarulo is joining us for the day. Before you get the best show ever with Tyrone and Ricky. In the meantime, lots to talk about. Phillies back in action tonight. You were talking, I think, with Brandon, one of those guys out there. We have like our whole back room is just filled, and if you're a guy, your name is either Brendan or Brandon. And Bill was talking to one of them about how much the Phillies are must-see TV right now. I'll tell you what, and this is full honesty. You know, baseball, to me, I love baseball. As you know, I love all sports, obviously, in the job that I do. Baseball was that sport to me, where I had a friend, Ed Tobler, God rest his soul, that I can go back 10 years ago. He was one of the only people I knew that would watch every Phillies game first pitch to last every night. And it was funny. I'd go over on a Tuesday night to pick up my daughter, who's best friends with his daughter. And, you know, there's Ed just sitting on the couch watching Phillies game, fifth inning. They're down 12-1. Nope, doesn't matter. Watching the whole game. And I bet you a lot of us have done this. I've become that guy. I really have. And there's two reasons. The first reason is obvious, Bill, and I'll give you that, is because the Phillies have been playing really good baseball over the last few years. What do you think the second reason is?
As to why they're must-watch
As
TV?
to why, to me, it's must-watch TV. Because this surprised me as much as anything. And, Ray, if you have a guess on this, I'd love to hear it. One reason I watch every pitch of every game is because they're so damn entertaining and they're playing good. The other reason is?
This is my guess, only because this is why my fiance enjoys watching it. It helps her relax and put her to sleep.
Ooh.
The sounds of the game.
Ooh, that's pretty good. I hadn't thought of that because it is nighttime watching. I do the same thing every night. My family all retreats around 8, 9 o'clock at night. They all go to their rooms, and I'm left there alone. And that's when I do, you know, some writing, some of the work, and all of that stuff by myself. It is my relaxed time. I never thought of that one, Bill, but that's not the one I had in mind. Ray, you think you know it?
Is it because with this team, you just don't want to miss a moment? You are convinced that you could see something special every night?
No, although that's a good one, too. You guys I probably have more than two reasons. It's because of the rule changes. It is. And it was funny, Bill. So last year when they implemented the new rules, I was on the morning show with John, and it's the first week of baseball, and John put it out there perfectly. He said, all right, it's been a week. What do you think? And I said, I hate it. I hate the new rules. I hate a pitch clock. I hate that they're changing the way baseball, the way I was used to being played, is being changed. Didn't like it at all. I said, but I'm going to give it a chance. I didn't like anything better as far as a rule change in sports in my lifetime, maybe, than the clock change, the clock being implanted into baseball.
Is that because the games are quicker?
Yeah, because, you know, like, look, in my old job here, I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, watching a baseball game that started at 7 o'clock that went to like 10:15, 11 o'clock. Like, that was a pain in the ass. This is fun.
So you like the pitch clock because it shortens the game.
I do.
But what do you think about a runner on second to start extra innings?
Because I can't decide, and we've had it, you know, put in for so long now, I have to rule that I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't. I just, it's too easy to me. It's an ending quickly to me, which is what they wanted. But no, I'd like to see it play out a little bit more. Do you like it?
I don't. It's kind of the same reason why I don't like the shootout in hockey. It's just, it's not the real way you play the game. It's not the real way that a game should be decided, that you start the inning with a runner on second, or we're going to decide the winner of the hockey game with a skills competition. I don't like that. But you mentioned this is your favorite rule change in recent memory.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that a lot of football fans are going to have the same reaction you did when they see the kickoff change. Oh, we hate it. And they're going to grow to love it because it's going to be a big part of football again. The return is coming back, and I'm excited to see how teams are going to strategize for it.
I'm interested in that also. Now, first look at it, when someone put it out on Twitter and said, this is what it's going to look like.
It looks strange.
I think we all had the same reaction. Right, you saw that video, right, of what the kickoffs are going to look like?
Yeah, and I tried to explain it to you that morning, and I was putting my brain in a pretzel. Yeah, so I'm going to say, out of ignorance, I'm out until I see it, and then eventually they'll draw me in.
All right, so you bring up something interesting on this, Bill. I have who my return guy would be for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, let's remember, No one can start running towards the returner until the ball hits his hands. They're about 25 yards out, 30 yards out, I think, from where he will be receiving from. And you have equal blocking, like right there on top of each other. So to me, it's like an elongated running play. Hey, Saquon, line up back there and grab that kick, all right? I'm not kidding you. I would put one of my better running backs back there, and I don't care about playing time or getting hurt. Whatever. To me, it's just an elongated normal play from scrimmage, kind of. So, yeah, I want Saquon Barkley back there taking my kickoff returns. You have any thoughts on that?
Well, I'll tell you,
against it.
It's not going to be Saquon Barkley. That's for sure.
Well, they got Covey
But
still. So.
I understand the thought process, but I also think that's part of the reason why the Eagles added some of the players that they did, because you look at, one, Isaiah Rodgers was a kick returner. They still have Britton Covey, but Cooper DeJean returns kicks. Will Shipley can return kicks. Anaya Smith can return kicks. So they've added players who have the ability to do it. And yesterday, in addition to Fangio and Kellen Moore getting all the headlines, the special teams coordinator spoke as well.
Long.
And he did talk about that kick returner, and he even talked about how they like Britton Covey, but it's going to be a competition because they did add a lot of potential players at that.
Yeah, Britton Covey was really good last year, too. And he was fun to watch when he was back there. All right, Chris in Jersey, we're going to get to you real quick. Chris, how you doing? You're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, what's going on, Bob?
How you doing, buddy?
To call in because I'm talking about reasons why you watch a game. And one, obviously, they're a good team and all that. But for me, I love to just, at night when the kids are sleeping, my wife's asleep, I put the earbuds in and sync it up to the TV.
Yeah.
And listening to the sounds of a game, listen to Croc McCarthy talking about the game, nothing beats that at night. Just sitting there, especially the late games, like a West Coast game. And something about having the earbuds in and listening to the sounds of that game, it's a good reason to sit there.
That's pretty cool. I brought up something last week, Chris, about Bryce Harper hitting a home run. And I was watching that exact pitch, and boom, Harper hits a home run. And I said it was the kind of home run that if you were just glancing down, say, at your phone, a book, or whatever while the game was going on, the sound coming off his bat would have made you look up. The next night,
100%.
He hit a 3-run homer, and that exact same thing happened to me. I was looking down at my phone for a second. I heard a crack. I looked up, and it was Harper hitting that other 3-run homer. The sounds of baseball are some of the best.
Oh, it's the best. I recommend anybody. If your earbuds can sync to your TV, do it. It's the best way to watch a baseball game. It really is. I know we all have good TVs and you have good sound and speakers, but something about having it just in your ears like that.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Thanks so much, Chris. Really appreciate that. The sounds of baseball, it seems odd to say it because, basketball, it's the squeaking and the dribbling and all that, and football, the power of it all. But, yeah, there are some sounds in baseball that are just unmatched.
There are, and we have great announcers here, and McCarthy does a great job. But, man, listening to Harry Callis back in the day was so great. When you hear him. And, yeah, you have the sound of the ball, get one into the mitt, and then the bat, the wooden bat sound, and then Harry Callis, long drive.
Miss it a lot. All right, when we get back, we have so much more to talk to you about. A reminder, Jim Curtin is going to be joining us. Union coach Jim Curtin will join us at 1 o'clock as the Union face Orlando City FC, 7:30 Saturday night at Subaru Park. You can hear that on this very station, and the play-by-play announcer is going to be none other than Ray Dunn. So stay with us. When we get back, a lot more Phillies, Eagles, Flyers, Sixers talk, whatever you might want, and tell us your best mom sports story. We're all here for it. This is Middays 97.5 The Fanatic. back, noon hour. Hope you're having a good Friday. Getting ready for a great weekend. Supposed to be a nice day tomorrow. Our local meteorologist is John Kincade, and he keeps me abreast of what the weather's going to be. So John let me know that today, while not nice, tomorrow's going to be sunny and warmer and a chance to get outside and do some stuff.
Well, one of the things you should be doing from 9 to 12 is listening to Fanatic Weekend.
There it is. Why?
Every Saturday and Sunday. You get me every Saturday, Sunday morning, right here on the Fanatic.
Perfect. And our own Ray Dunn will also be calling the Union game tomorrow night at 7:30. Play-by-play from him. Let's hit the phones, talk to some of the people. Joe in Philly wants to tell us a story about a friend of mine. Joe, how you doing, buddy? You're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, Bob. How you doing?
Doing great, buddy.
All right. So you mentioned Ed, and I just wanted to share with you that him and I grew up together. I never had the pleasure of meeting you, but laughing about Ed and staying through a Phillies game. Him and I were about 14, and we were finally allowed to take the bus and the subway down to a Phillies game ourselves, and we were so excited. So him and I go down to a Mets game, and it might have been a doubleheader, but I'm not sure. It was about 84. And we get down there, and it starts raining. There's a break, and then it rains again, and we're back and forth. So people start leaving, and I'm thinking, we're going to get out of here. And he has no interest in leaving at all. So we're like, okay. So we keep moving down from the 500 level down. Now we're moving in. And anyway, we end up being there for like 11 hours, because you know how he is. He's not leaving. We paid for the seat. So it was a great time. And if you look up the longest games in history, it's one of them. It's one of the top 5 or 6. And, of course, I think of Ed every time I look at that. And then going down the road in 08, him and I ended up being together for the win, for the 2-part win. After that rain delay, we ended up going back to my house and getting Wawa coffee and going to sleep. And then we met up a day later, and we ended up having champagne and celebrating that 08 win, and he wasn't leaving any of those games.
No, never. I'm actually going out with his family tonight, Joe, so I'll let him know you said hi.
Give everybody a hug and a kiss, and I really appreciate it. And
certainly will.
I hope to meet you someday soon.
You too, buddy. Hope to get together soon. Thanks, Joe. Much appreciated. So just a little background. A friend of mine, Ed Tobler, who passed away about a year and a half ago, just the biggest Phillies fan I ever knew. And like I said, talking earlier, he didn't miss a pitch of any game during the season at all. We even set something up. So we belonged to the same swim club. And Ed was treasurer of the swim club. And, I dabbled in the swim board and all that stuff. But one of the big goals was, because our kids like to be up there at nighttime, one of Ed's first things to do was to get a projection screen so that we could watch the Phillies game while we were watching our kids, of course. Maria in Collingswood, a friend of the show. She has a mom story to tell us. Good morning, Maria.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Just out just doing some Mother's Day shopping here.
Yeah, you shopping for yourself?
Sort of, kind of.
Maria, that's not how it works.
Well, I have a good story about my good friend who is an unbelievable mother. So I just wanted to give a shout out to her and tell a funny story.
Okay, sure. Would that be one named Mary Jane?
That would be Mary Jane. Yes,
okay.
That would be Mary Jane. So she's recently taken up the sport of golf.
Yes.
And she's pretty good. She's pretty good. I think she has a promising future. But some of the funny things that she says when she's out on the course are quite funny. So she, in choosing a club, she'll call it her sandwich. She calls her sandwich club. And when she goes to play at a par 3, she calls it a 3-holer.
A 3-holer.
A 3-holer. And then also the pro shop that we have at various
at your country club?
Yeah, she calls it the gift shop. The gift shop. But she's one of my favorite people in the world and a fabulous mother, so I just wanted to give a shout out.
And you are also. You're one of my favorite people in the world, and you are an awesome mother, too. So I hope you have a great day on Sunday.
You too. Love the show, Bob. You're
All right.
great.
Thanks, Maria. Take care of yourself. So that's a friend of mine from growing up. The girl, Mary Jane, who she mentioned, was her best friend all through high school, and they married brothers, Bill. So they're best friends that get to be around each other all the time because they're married to brothers. So good planning by them.
Yeah,
huh?
that is nice.
Yeah. So we're talking about mom stories today when it comes to sports, but obviously we're talking about a lot of sports too. And a subject came up in my head last night, and a lot of people saw it, that Caitlin Clark last night made her home debut. It was an exhibition game, but in Indiana, a WNBA game in Indiana. It drew over 13,000 people for a WNBA preseason game. Caitlin Clark's going to make her debut on Tuesday night in the WNBA. It's an away game, and then she'll be home a couple of nights later. I think it's Thursday night, where they'll host New York in a WNBA game. It's going to be amazing what the crowd's going to be like. If you saw any highlights from last night, number 22 jerseys everywhere, from Iowa to the team that she's on now, the Indiana Fever, all that. Do you remember a non-sports Philly debut? Bill, any sport that you were so excited to see? Because, I've been on the...
You said non-sports Philly debut, or do you mean non-Philly?
Non-Philly sports debut. A non-Philly sports debut, not one of our teams, but somebody out there that was about to make their... Now, it could be a player, could be a coach, could be anything. But do you have one? It's the question I'm going to pose out to everybody. 610-632-0975. Do you remember a debut by a non-Philly sports person that you were so excited to see? Do you have one, Bill?
You know, you send out the show sheet before the show and put this on there, and I was thinking really hard about who did I want to see. And I'm trying to go back to remembering, and I think the only one I could come up with was when LeBron made his NBA debut.
That's a great one.
I'm not a huge LeBron James fan, but I will be when he comes to Philly this offseason. But, yeah, I just remember that. All the hype surrounding him was who he was going to be. And, man, to his credit, he really lived up to it.
Yeah, and he's still in his prime. Imagine that after all of these years. But there's been a lot of debuts that you could, like, I remember, this is a long time ago, when John Elway was making his debut in the NFL, Ray. It was like one of those Sunday afternoon. I think they're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, if my memory's correct, because that's how big it was. I run home from church. I got to see this kid Elway play in the NFL, because there was also baseball talk with him at the time. He had a horrible debut. John Elway's debut was I'll look up the numbers when we get back, or when we go to break. But it was horrible. But that was one debut I couldn't wait for. And I still remember that.
I just got a text from my fiance, and she's
Hello,
a
Bridget.
big tennis player. She just texted me Venus and Serena with exclamation points.
Oh, that's not bad.
That is a really good one.
That's not bad at all. Also, I got one from our friend Ricky Batalico here. Brian Bosworth.
Oh, Boz, the football player.
Remember all the hype surrounding him coming out of Oklahoma? Oh, this is the linebacker of the future, and he's going to change the position and all that. The career didn't go the way it wanted to, but he's right.
I think wasn't there a Netflix special on him, or a 30 for 30 or something? I remember watching something on the Boz.
Oh, absolutely. Ray, do you have one? Do you have a debut by somebody that you just couldn't wait for?
I'm thinking, and it was like the coming of age of really being like going from just caring about Philadelphia to caring about sports as a whole. But I remember that 2012 quarterback class of Luck, RG3, like them getting going that first Sunday of, these guys are like going to get a chance to play in the league and see what they were about. I think that was like one of those where there was no rooting interest. If anything, there was the opposite of rooting interest. RG3 is an electric debut, and it's like, oh, man, now you have to worry about Washington. But I think that was one for me that I'll remember, like, oh, yeah, like, I want to see what these guys have. I want to see it. And I loved Andrew Luck as a quarterback. I think I had that, like, weird, like, affinity to the Colts for Peyton Manning, and then they get Luck, and it's like, of course, they got another great quarterback. Let me see what this guy's all about.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun to watch him.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I'll just describe it. There was this guy that was 6'9". Bless you. There was a 6'9" guy that at the time was a center, but this guy could handle the ball and pass the ball and was very, very magical, we should say, about his, like, Magic Johnson, when he came out of college going into the NBA, that might be the biggest in my lifetime, where nationally it was like, all right, what's this kid have? And he had a debut. I think one of his first passes was a look away over the shoulder to somebody for a dunk on that Lakers team. Magic Johnson that debut was huge nationally. That's another one I'll never forget. Chris in Allentown wants to give us a mom story. Chris, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hi, how you doing, guys?
Great.
I have my grandmother to thank for my love of the Phillies, and every season, for 4 seasons in a row, we kept box score. And now the games that I missed, being in school, I would just sit there and I would copy what she had wrote down. And I learned how to curse and everything from that woman. So,
You learned how to curse from your grandmom?
I was cursing at the Phillies back then.
I love it. I love it. That's a great story. Thanks so much, Chris. Appreciate it. Sorry about that. I thought you were done. I didn't have I didn't really know my grandparents.
My grandmother is the biggest Philly sports fan you could
She's
ever
still
meet.
around?
She's 89 years old.
That's awesome.
I actually played a phone call on the air one weekend that I got from her because we were talking about Nick Sirianni. It was a great phone call, but she'll watch every single game, loves her Sixers, loves the Phillies, loves the Eagles, loves the Flyers. But growing up, she is a massive Philly sports fan, and she won't miss games. Like, she revolves her life around watching the games. So
that's terrific.
Yeah, I learned at a very young age, but I just have vivid memories of her watching Flyers hockey, being like, check them. Constantly, that's all I would hear. Check them.
I was wondering if it was going to be shoot.
That's pretty good. Somebody on our YouTube page, who is it? Dave Dewar says Tiger Woods.
Yes.
Tiger Woods debut. I don't remember his debut all that much.
I don't remember it that much either, but I know if you're a golf fan, and I wasn't into golf as much back then as I am now, and I'll go back and just watch YouTube videos of Tiger because, man, that was – I talked earlier about LeBron James and having all those expectations and living up to them.
Yeah.
I watched the Tiger Woods documentary, and his father, when he was 3 years old, was basically telling him, you were going to change the sport of golf, and then to live up to it.
Wow.
It's pretty incredible.
That's pretty high standards to put your son to at 3 years old. He was on like the Mike Sullivan or the Mike.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
local
about.
talk show that my mom used to watch all the time. I forget his name, and I don't want to do him justice. But he was like making putts at 3 years old on a talk show.
Not bad.
Yeah, which is pretty.
I
cool.
still can't make putts at 24 years old.
Yeah,
so.
you're not the only one.
It's not easy sometimes. Yeah, it gets harder maybe as you get older. James in Lansdale's on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, James?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, buddy?
Good. So I love the comparison, or you guys are talking about the debut and stuff outside of Philly. Somebody had mentioned LeBron. I think that's probably the biggest one that a lot of people are going to remember. But another one that I thought of is Steven Strasburg for the Nats. He came out of San Diego State, and he's supposed to be the next greatest thing since sliced bread at the time.
Yeah.
And I think he played the Pirates during his debut, and he had like 13 Ks. And it was just an awesome outing. And I thought that his career was going to just, propel from there. And it obviously he had a lot of injuries and all that kind of stuff. But his debut, I thought, was one to remember.
I remember when that all came about, and you're right. It was talked about that he was the next thing. I hate when I can live with guys coming out that have that expectations that don't reach them. I hate when injury derails it.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, and that's what happened with Strasburg. Thanks so much, James. Really appreciate it. Hope you have a great weekend. We're talking about debuts. Caitlin Clark's making her debut next week for the WNBA. Last night, she had a preseason game that drew over 13,000 people, a preseason game in Indiana for her debut there in preseason. What's the biggest debut of a sports athlete, not here in Philadelphia, that you remember most? Now, I will use my one for Philadelphia, and it was Eric Lindros.
Oh, me too, man.
Because I was working for the paper at the time when that was all coming down, the decision on where he was going to go. I'll never forget that afternoon at 1 o'clock. It was supposed to be announced. Sitting at our computer and calling up. You have to keep hitting refresh for the biggest stories to come up, and you're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and finally it comes over. Boom, Eric Lindros is going to the Philadelphia Flyers. Brian on the cell. He's got a debut. Brian, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, Bob. How are you guys doing today?
Great. How about you?
Good. I got a debut and a mom story.
All right.
I grew up in Kansas City, but I went to college at USC in L.A., and I was a freshman in '88 when Wayne Gretzky joined the Kings.
Wow.
And that was like a holiday. I don't even know how he played, but it was, he was a rock star there. And so that's all I remember. And of course, you had Magic and the Lakers at the same time. So it was a nice hotbed for sports.
Brian, I still call Wayne Gretzky the most dominant athlete of my lifetime for his sport.
It's unbelievable.
And the way he changed that Kings team around, that was so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was instantaneous.
Yeah.
And as soon as he was there, they were in the finals.
Exactly. What's your mom's story, Bri?
Well, quick one. It's a lesson learned, right? I was 10, 11. We carpooled to soccer practice, and I basically didn't feel like going. My mom came home, and she goes, "Why aren't you at practice?" And I'm like, I didn't feel like going, and she threw me in the car. She drove me to practice. It was across town, and she made me go to practice, and it's kind of a good lesson learned. You know, I thank her for that. You know, I ended up getting a chemical engineering degree in the Navy. I was an officer in the Navy, and so I think little lessons like that, you know, go a long way. So
Absolutely.
I want to thank my mom this weekend.
All right, you got it, Bri. Thanks so much. Hey, I equate sports to life all the time. And, you know, a couple times that I've been asked to talk to, you know, some younger kids, maybe back in my old high school or whatever, first thing I say, like, hey, you guys are here at 7:30 on a summer morning playing basketball. You've already, you know, gotten somewhere that a lot of other kids might not get to. And that's just the discipline of getting up and doing that. Ray, you say we have some pretty good text going on.
Yeah, we got a good text because it jumped to my mind. We're talking about greats in their sport debuting. And this was one from a first-time texter here checking in. Messi with Miami.
Oh,
and
very recent.
Yes, the craze that was for him to be in Major League Soccer and just following that entire saga is a really, really good answer for a debut.
That is. And do you remember what he did in that game, Ray? Because it wasn't that long. Didn't he?
It was the free kick in the June game. I think it was. I don't know if it was his first regular season one. He won on a free kick.
He won it, right?
Yeah, and then I think the first actual MLS game, he also won it with a goal. Like, he's just magnificent. I mean, I remember I was down there for when he was in town to play the Union, and it was. I mean, the crowd was something else. The energy about just having him out there. You know, he steps onto the field, and it's just. Look who it is.
Yeah.
Look at, like, it's a whole different other level of superstardom.
It's funny. Somebody on our YouTube page says, yeah, I'm still waiting for Andrew Bynum to make his Sixers debut.
Oh, man, that was bad.
Come on.
But I know you're not talking Philly ones, but you mentioned the Lindros debut. For me, though, Philly, T.O. I mean, do you remember when they finally got the wide receiver in that preseason game? First play, Donovan throws a bomb. I think he goes 81 yards, and then Donovan writes T.O. in the air, and we're thinking, we got our number one wide receiver for the next 5 years.
This is it. Yeah.
Didn't
that might have
work
been
out.
against Baltimore.
It was.
Was it? Yeah, okay. I can still see it down the right sideline, right?
Yeah, like how many other preseason plays do you remember like that? And you remember that one forever.
That was amazing. The other preseason memory I have, what's his face? Sleeves going 10 for 10 against Green Bay.
Sam Bradford,
Sam
man.
Bradford, and everybody saying,
Chip Kelly.
What are you laughing at?
Sammy Sleeves.
I'm laughing at Sam Bradford. You know, the thing Sam Bradford would be thrilled today to be mentioned in the same conversation with T.O.
Yeah, well, it's
good point.
It's kind of topical because it was Chip Kelly's era, and a lot of people listened to Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy yesterday talk about a lot of what we already knew, that Chip Kelly was not a fun coach to play for.
Yeah, how about that? We'll dip into that a little bit when we get back. Also, I do want to dig deeper into what Kellen Moore had to say about this offense for the Philadelphia Eagles this coming year. Also, some Phillies talk as they get back at it tonight against the Marlins down in Miami. 7-10 start. I believe Ranger Suarez will be on the mound. We are also taking your favorite mom stories about sports and how it equates to it. We'd love to hear them as Mother's Day is on Sunday for the best people in the world, moms. 610-632-0975. Bill Colarulo's with us for the rest of the day. I'm Bob Cooney. This is Middays, 97.5 The Fanatic. Hey, welcome back. Hope you're having a great Friday. As the afternoon continues to roll on, gets us closer to the weekend, Mother's Day weekend. Of course, we can't say it enough. Happy Mother's Day to all out there. We had a call from Maria, who was going out and buying herself Mother's Day presents.
Is that the same Maria that made herself lasagna?
That is the same Maria, yes. Yeah.
We got to talk to her husband.
Yeah, Chris came up small there. He lost a bet to her, and he was supposed to make lasagna. And then that night, Maria sends me a picture of herself making the lasagna. But she was also nice enough to say, I said, wow, you're making a lot. And she and Chris their kids are out of the house. And she said, yeah, there's plenty. Why don't you come pick some up and take it into the office with you? That's how nice Maria is.
Is Maria Italian?
I believe so.
It sounds like that, making lasagna, because that's how my family is. My grandmother, no matter what, they cook for an army. Could be for two people. They cook for an army.
My wife has those tendencies, like especially when we have parties, like we will have food for like years on end after parties, and we've had a lot of parties where it's, 30, 40, 50, 60 people or whatever. There's always tons of food left over. It's an Italian thing, right?
Yes, it's always better to have more than not enough.
There's always enough to see. We balance each other well. She's Italian, I'm Irish, so there's always plenty of food and there's always plenty of liquor, Bill. Maybe that's why we're good party throwers. So we talked a lot today about the Eagles coordinators talking. We dove a lot into Vic Fangio and what the defense is going to be about. In Kellen Moore, we've only scratched the surface a little bit, and there was a couple of things that he said that I found very interesting. And one of them was about all the weapons that are at his disposal and how exactly can he kind of use those weapons.
So I think the biggest thing is having clear identity of who we want to be, and ultimately week in and week out understanding their role, certainly through a game. There's going to be certain games where guys are going to get more attention than others. Understand that you're a big part of it. You may have the big-time assist on a play, that gives us an opportunity for someone else to score a touchdown, and maybe the next week now it goes vice versa, and someone else has to help the other guy out. And so I think there's that continuous trust as we build this thing.
You know what I like about that, Bill? That reeks to me of different game plans every week.
Yeah, it does, and I think part of the reason that question was asked is there's a lot of people who are just concerned when you look at the offense. Are there too many mouths to feed, right? Are there too many mouths to feed? How do you keep everybody happy? But that's where I think Howie Roseman did his best work this offseason. They extended Devontae Smith. They extended A.J. Brown. They gave Saquon Barkley the big contract. Jaylen Hurts already has his big money deal.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what you get when people want the ball is they want to earn their next contract. This offense isn't going to be worried about that. They all got paid. That was big.
That is a great point. They're going into the season happy.
Yes.
And that is a very good way to go into it. Also, it reminds me back like years ago when the Sixers needed that one player to get them over the top back in the 80s when I was a little kid, and they got Moses Malone. And the concern was, well, how do you get Julius Erving his and Maurice Cheeks and Bobby Jones and Andrew Toney? I'll tell you how they got theirs, by lifting that trophy at the end of the season. Like that. That's the biggest way you're going to go about it. It reminds me of the Bill Belichick thought of 1 week you could watch those Patriots go into a game with Tom Brady and throw the ball all over the field. And the next week, Brady would throw 15 passes because the running game was number one on his list. I love when coaches adapt to what they're going against.
The reason you loved it is because you didn't have any New England Patriots on your fantasy football team. Because that was always really the toughest thing to do. You'd see a running back go for 100 yards, and then the next week the running back got 2 carries for the Patriots. But no, and I think you look at this Eagles offense, that's why I think Howie Roseman had a great offseason, because their goal is really to lift that Lombardi trophy now. They don't care about earning the next contract, and I think that's why a lot of players sometimes, especially you look at Devontae Smith, this goes to show how good of character he has and why a lot of people look to him as a leader. He knew he was trying to earn his first big contract. Those rookie deals don't pay them a lot of money.
Right.
But he never complained about targets, ever. And they rewarded him. I'm glad they did.
Yeah, and when you have happy players going into a season, that is awesome. We often talk about, they're playing for a contract, so you're going to get a lot out of them. I think when guys get that contract a lot of times is also the happier the player, the better the play some.
They got a couple of players who are going to be playing for contracts, and none bigger than Devin White.
Right.
Devin White's on a prove-it deal. Came in on a 1-year deal. He needs to have a good season if he wants to get a big contract next year. So that one I'm okay with. But some of your homegrown talent who've been here for a few years, I'm glad they took care of them. Landon Dickerson, Jordan Mailata is another one.
Yeah.
They did a really good job taking care of their own.
Yeah, this offense, not only are they good athletically, they're doing pretty good at the bank, too. Also, Kellen Moore was asked what might be one of the tougher things. Now, trying to find tough things with an offense this star-laden might be a little bit difficult, but he found one.
Terminology, I mean, plays are plays, words are words. I think it's a combination of things that we can build off of. Hey, if everyone understands a play and it makes sense, let's keep things in place. That's not that complicated. We're continuing to evolve the system to make sure that the language ties together, that the communication can be clean, and whether that word comes from Philadelphia, Los Angeles, or somewhere in between, we're building that as we go.
Bill, you were a tight end in college. Terminology changed from high school to college. Maybe you went through a few coaches in college and high school, whatever. How difficult is that? I mean, I guess every coach brings in his own terminology. Basically, plays at the end of the terminology are probably the same that you've run with other people. But is that a difficult thing to pick up?
Well, I mean, we weren't running probably a pro offense at all. I'm sure the terminology is a lot more detailed. But my senior year, we show up expecting my head coach, who was basically our offensive coordinator, to take over like he did every single season. And he announces, first day, breaks down crying. His wife was diagnosed with cancer, and he was going to have to miss the whole season. So the new offensive coordinator that they brought in to learn his offense, he goes, look, I don't know the offense well enough. We're going to have to run my offense. Completely changed the terminology. We had to learn an entire new playbook, but you adapt. I mean, you adapt.
Exactly.
I think that gets overblown a little bit, but in the NFL, I think the big part of it is the terminology, especially with some of the line checks when you're talking about pass protection or blocking schemes and some of the route designs and stuff like that. But I think that they'll be able to adapt to it. But what I loved most was that Kellen Moore said that they're going to build off of a lot of good that already exists with this offense, because it has had a lot of success over the last 2 years.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I wanted to bring up next. This offense is good. It's filled with stars, and he talked about not losing the good of this offense.
Our real focus here as we've gone through this process is, we got a lot of good going on, and we can't lose the good and the reps that, Jaylen and AJ have developed and Dallas has developed, this offensive line have developed, and how can we build off of those things and really connect the whole thing. And so that's been a really fun process. There'll be tweaks, there'll be changes. Everything's constantly evolving. That's part of this whole offseason program.
There's always tweaks and changes, no matter the sport, no matter the level. What do you need to see change in this Eagles offense, Bill? Like, what would you look at last year's team and you see what was what? And I'm taking away the bad. I'm just saying, looking at the offense, is there something you would change drastically?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I know there's a lot of fans who wanted Nick Sirianni completely not involved in this offense. I wasn't one of them. I think you look at the last 2 seasons, they have had a lot of success. I think it would be dumb to say we're going to completely throw everything out the window, because you do utilize some of the things this team did well. But what I really want to see Kellen Moore do is to design plays to get your playmakers the ball in space, to take advantage of their ability to get the yards after catch. Because you look at the numbers from 2022, this offense was top 5 in the NFL in 2022 with average yards after catch. You come back last season with really the same personnel, an upgrade actually at running back in terms of yards after catch, because you replaced Miles Sanders with DeAndre Swift. So you should have seen that yards after catch improve. They dropped to 25th in the league. So to me, that was all about route concepts and play designs and not designing the plays to get your playmakers the ball in space. You look at Kellen Moore, even on a bad LA Chargers offense last year, they were top 5 in yards after catch because he knows how to design plays. So that's what I want to see most. Yards after catch this year, back in the top 5.
Yeah, because it's become kind of stagnant, or it did last year, I thought, in that there was so much sit-down football, right? Receivers going, stopping, boom, here's the pass, see what can happen after that. I don't remember a whole lot of guys going across the middle. I mean, we called for it, and when they did it, it worked, and I don't know why they didn't do it more, but not a whole lot of guys catching the ball on a complete run going across the middle of the field.
Well, Bob, last year, Jaylen Hurts threw only 5.2% of his passes between the hashes. That was
Is that right?
30th out of 30 qualified quarterbacks.
Wow.
And when I talk about the yards after catch, it's not just something you want to see. It's a recipe to success. You look at your two teams in the Super Bowl. San Francisco 49ers, number 1 in average yards after catch. Kansas City Chiefs, number 2 in average yards after catch. So I think that's going to be a big element that Kellen Moore brings to this team, this offense. And the way to do that maybe is with motion, because he also talked about motion and bringing pre-snap motion into play. You just got to you got all these playmakers. Get them the ball in space and let them make plays.
Yeah, well, let's do that then. Let's hear what Kellen Moore did have to say, because this Eagles team doesn't like the motion an awful lot, like hardly at all last year. But Kellen Moore was asked about the motion. He does like it, and this is what he had to say.
Yeah, certainly the shift in motion aspect of it. It probably goes back, to how I grew up around the game with my dad being a high school coach and being in college at Boise State. We kind of used it a lot. And so it's always kind of stuck with me. I think there's obviously advantages to it. There's some things that you're trying to gather information for the defense, and there's other times you're simply stressing the defense. And so, I think there's those two elements, and ultimately you're trying to build packages and create things so that the run and the action game and the drop back game, and so there's alignment and there's similarities with the presentations that allows us to stress the defense with those different looks.
Bill, let me ask you, if I forget that it's specifically Jaylen Hurts, all right, just think of a quarterback. And if I were to ask you, hey, how come a quarterback doesn't throw between the hash marks all that much? What would be your answer to it, and what is your answer to it concerning Jaylen Hurts?
I think it's for both. My answer for both Jaylen Hurts and just in general would be that the route designs that are being put in place, you're not running routes over the middle. I mean, it's very rare. You looked at the route trees last year, and it was very rare that their plays had wide receivers or even running backs for that matter running routes inside the hashes. They were running a lot of 9 patterns. They were running a lot of outs. They weren't really taking advantage of the middle of the field, which was the complete opposite of what you saw from other teams. They
to them, right,
exploited the middle of the field against the Eagles defense. So let's hope Kellen Moore, he's a bright mind. He's very, very smart. And when you add that motion in, I think that will help Jaylen Hurts with his pre-snap reads, because Kellen Moore mentions it in that soundbite. But when you put a guy in motion, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at the defense and say, well, if a guy goes with him, it's man coverage. So you're able to really very quickly, just through a pre-snap motion, read the defense and kind of know a little bit easier what type of defense they're in.
Right, exactly. So looking forward to that. I think you're going to see a lot of changes out there. On the offensive side of the ball, to me, it seems, I'm not going to say Kellen Moore's job is easy, but, man, does he have a lot to work with. Vic Fangio, on the other hand, boy, that defense is still very, very suspect to me. Okay, when we get back, we're taking your mother's stories when it concerns sports. What is something that you shared with your mom, or a funny story that happened with your mom when it came to sports? Also, I know it's a long way away to even think of Eagles preseason and all of that. It's way off. But I do want to ask a question about it. We'll do all that and more when we get back. This is Middays. Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. back. Hope you're having a good Friday afternoon as we reach the 1 o'clock hour. At 1 o'clock, Jim Curtin, your Union coach, will be joining us to talk about the signing of Kevin Sullivan. Unbelievable. 14-year-old signing a pro contract. I'll tell you what, too, this kid ate it up. I don't know if you saw the picture. If you didn't, the kid's got the dyed blonde hair. He's got a nice suit on. He's got like I don't want to call it a choker necklace, but he's got the necklace sticking out there. Like, this is a 14-year-old that's owning the professional life, Bill.
Yeah, he's probably been a superstar for how many years now, though? You know, he's used to it. I'm
pretty positive. So, Kevin's grandfather was my son's high school head coach in soccer. I am pretty positive that he was on, because there was a little grandson, a little Sullivan, running around on the field over at Camden Catholic, playing against these sophomore, junior, seniors in high school, and this kid was like, oh, my God, look at the things that kid could do. So we'll have to ask Jim Curtin about that, but I'm pretty sure Larry Sullivan had his grandchild who just signed a pro contract at the age of 14. I'm pretty sure it's Larry's grandchild, but just unbelievable. I mean, that's cool. And the coolness of it is all the homegrown stuff. I know some of their families in Bridesburg and all over the place. Like, the homegrownness that the Union has done, it's really something special. And there's a lot of them and a lot more to come. And the Union is really cool. And Bill, we got to get you out there because we want to get a show outing to go see a Union game sometime pretty soon. And you know, maybe we'll be fortunate enough that when we're there, we'll hear the callings of the game by one Ray Dunn, which he's going to do on Saturday night. Are you pumped? You psyched?
I am. I'm very excited. I can't wait for this. It's going to be a really, really cool opportunity. I'm very, very grateful that they extended that one to me.
Orlando City FC, 7:30 at Subaru Park on Saturday night. That game will be broadcast right here on The Fanatic and with the great tones of one Ray Dunn. All right, talking about a lot today. We've hit Eagles. We've hit Phillies. We're also talking about mom stories when it comes to sports. We've had some great ones so far. Jerry on the cell. You're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, Jerry?
Bobby C, what's happening? How are you?
I'm feeling good. How about you?
Not bad. How's the gang? Everybody okay?
Everybody's great.
There you go. Two things. First of all, Kelvin likes things clean. I think he finished about 10 sentences with clean somewhere at the end.
He had a lot of clean and a lot of fun, Jared. There was a lot of fun throughout his news conference, too.
Yes. And if you look at those two yesterday, what you look at is it's going to be a plus. I don't know if they change everything or whatever, but you're going to have two experienced coordinators versus two first-year guys. Even when... You know, when you look at it, it's got to be an increase. It's got to be a plus for them to have two experienced guys as coordinators.
No question. Now, Jerry, real quick, he came in, did Vic Fangio, and he talked about, the kids aren't like they were 40 years ago, but it's my job to do this, do that. He was talking old school football.
I didn't mind the thing he said.
Okay.
He kind of was matter-of-factly, tongue-in-cheek, threw the palladium in there. He knows he's been around. Come on, he could run one of those. And I didn't realize the Moore kid was the coordinator last year in L.A., so he's ready to go too. It's going to be a plus having them both.
All right, Jerry, listen, have a great weekend. Hope everything goes well for you. So there's somebody who's probably around my age group that is okay with the way Vic Fangio came out yesterday.
Yeah, and he's been in the game long enough. Fangio understands. He definitely understands. And to his point about having some more experience at these coordinator positions, you look at last year between Sean Desai and Brian Johnson, they had a total of 1 year experience as a coordinator. Between Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio, 25 years of experience. And Kellen Moore, he mentioned, was the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. He was also the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys and called plays. So that's important. Sometimes guys come in as offensive coordinators. They're not play callers, because the head coach calls the plays. Now, right. Kellen Moore called the plays for the #1 offense in the NFL when he was in Dallas. That's pretty impressive.
What do you think's the biggest thing we're going to see differently in the offense from this year compared to last year?
Well, pre-snap motion will be one. They're going to run a lot more pre-snap motion. But I'm just hoping that he brings better coordination And what I mean by that is when you were watching the offense last year, even though the final numbers weren't that bad, they still finished in the top 10 of almost every category. It just looked like there was no rhyme or reason a lot of times to the play calls, where they weren't calling plays to set up things later on in the game. They kept going to things that didn't work. You had a wide receiver screen called to a player where you have Devontae Smith lead blocking.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? He's the smallest receiver on the field. Why are you having him lead block on a wide receiver?
On like a 3rd and 18, right?
Just like really weird things. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I'll tell you, one of the things I'm hoping he does is makes the RPO effective again. Because we talk about the run-pass option. In 2022, they averaged 7.8 yards of play on every RPO they called. Last year, they called it just as much, but the effectiveness dropped. They only averaged 4.8 yards. So
How about that?
3 yards a play less when they called the RPO because teams figured out how to take it away. And Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni has to share in this blame. They couldn't figure out how to make it effective again, and that's what I'm hoping Kellen Moore can do.
Yeah, RPOs, I don't mind a little bit. Nigel in Philly, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic. What's up, Nigel?
Hey, how's it going?
Great.
So I got a story from my mom way back in the day, back when Reggie Miller and AI were going at him in the playoffs.
All right.
So I was real young. My mom meets Reggie Miller at the Four Seasons downtown the night before they were supposed to play the Sixers. She comes home and tells me the story as basically Reggie Miller walks up and tries to talk to her, tries to get her number and everything. My mom's married. God rest her soul. She's passed away.
Oh.
But he was married. So she turns him down. But she's telling them the whole time, hey, I think I know you. Aren't you that guy that my son hates? You're the guy that's always making those shots. My son hates you. He starts smiling and goes, yeah. She goes, yeah, you're Grant Hill. When I say, my mom tells me that his face dropped, and at the very same time, Larry Bird, his coach at the time, is walking past and busts out laughing. I mean, touching his knees, everything. Later on that day, Reggie Miller scorched us that night. All I know is that when my mom came home and told me this story, I said, you're the reason why we're losing tonight.
Oh, jeez. What a great story, Nigel. I love it. Thanks. Hope you have a great weekend. Great mom stories out there when it comes to sports. You absolutely love it. If you have one, we'd love to hear it. 610-632-0975. Jim Curtin's going to be joining us at 1 o'clock. Talk all Philadelphia Union. That and a whole lot more. Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're having a good Friday. Happy Friday to all out there, and hope it's the beginning of a great weekend for you. I know who wants to have a great weekend. It started pretty good yesterday with a certain signing, and that's Jim Curtin, the head coach of your Philadelphia Union, who joins us on the Comcast Business Hotline. Jim, how you doing today, buddy?
Hi, Bob. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks for coming on. Quite an exciting day yesterday. Did you ever imagine that you'd be signing a contract with a 14-year-old?
Well, special players, there's special circumstances for Bob, and Kevin Sullivan is certainly a special player, and we're lucky to have him here in Philadelphia.
So, Jim, just give us the ins and outs of it all, because, you know, to outside fans, it seems a little complicated. It's not just you're signing the kid to a contract and boom, he's on your team and you're playing him. So kind of explain it out to people in, you know, layman's terms that they'll understand exactly what this means with the signing of Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah, I think our league has a unique concept in that, you know, your youth academy can be a real driver of talent. And in Philadelphia, we have the best one in the country, you know, because of the work that our coaches do and the school system that they have for these young kids that come into our environment. Now, Bob, could you imagine if every kid in Philadelphia that was a great basketball player would be in the 76ers Youth Academy? And, and the great baseball players would be now you know, playing for the Philadelphia Phillies Youth Academy, and the great football talent that we have in the Philly area would fall under that umbrella of the Eagles, you know. And the biggest thing, Bob, that people don't understand, these guys are our players. We don't have to draft them. We don't have to trade for them. They're very cap-friendly. They don't hit your salary cap. So there's a real weapon, and there's such great players and such a hotbed of talent in all sports, really, the Philadelphia area. We see it as a great model for us. And you know, Philly is a town that gets behind their own, right? We love when a kid is born and raised here, is in your culture, all growing up as a young player. And for a special player like Kevin to pull the trigger at 14 and compensate him well, obviously financially, but also, you know, do things on the field and have us win here in Philadelphia will be something that's really special. But for the outside people that don't understand how our league works, that's how it operates. And I would love to see it in other sports. It would really change the game.
Yeah.
Looking at some of the homegrowns, I mean, looking at certainly what you guys have been able to accomplish. DC United last week, Jack McGlynn, and really what he stepped into. That goal, if people haven't seen it, you were stopping short of calling it the goal of the season because we're so early on in. But what have you seen from him? And, of course, take me through your reaction to a goal like that.
Yeah, another kid that went to our school here, was developed by the Philadelphia Union here, and has taken huge steps this season. A young player still, just turned 20 years old, but he's dominating our league right now. He's scored 2 great goals this year. The one against Seattle was special. This one is, I can't take credit for, guys. You either have this or you don't. He pulled the trigger from about 30 yards out and put a ball where no goalie could get near it, and just kind of wedged it in the upper corner to tie up the game. So, you know, a special talent, again, one that was developed here in Philly in our youth academy, and is going to probably go on and play in the Olympics for our U.S. national team too. So it's something we're really proud of, and he's done a great job. It's been awesome watching him get better and better.
So, Jim, when do you get word of these kids? You know, is it when they're like 7, 8 years old, and you have like this lifeline that you go to, and there's like, oh, I got to watch out for these Sullivan kids and this McGlynn kid? Like, how does it all come about? Because is this Larry's grandson, first of all, Calvin?
It is. It is.
Okay, yeah. So I believe when he was a little kid, I think the timeline's up right, he was going to my son's high school practices when he was like 7 years old, and Larry was the head coach over there, and this kid's running around. Like, when do you first start learning about these kids?
Yeah, look, again, every kid's development happens at a different age in any sport, you know, and there's stories of young phenoms that we all can remember that maybe don't pan out, and then there's late developers as well. So there's no one way to do it, but certainly when you talk about the Sullivan family, they're kind of, you know, Philadelphia royalty in the soccer world. And, you know, I had the honor of playing for Coach Sullivan, Kevin's grandfather at Villanova. You know, Kevin's father was the assistant coach there. So this is kind of a full circle moment for me that I'm now coaching, like you said, a little guy that was just always around and involved in being around the game all the time. It's no coincidence, coming from such a great family, that he's now developed into a global superstar. This isn't the Philadelphia area that's calling this kid a talent. Guys, if you talk to scouts at Real Madrid, at Dortmund, at Manchester City, at all these clubs all over the world, they identified him as a top talent in the world, not just in Philadelphia. So this is a unique one, guys. It's rare that you get generational talent, and we're really honored to have him sign here in Philadelphia.
I thought the cool thing, Jim, was that, and we're talking to Jim Curtin, coach of the Philadelphia Union, on the Comcast Business Hotline. I thought it cool yesterday. I was kind of out of pocket all day. I look at a national news when I get home, and boom, there it is. Now, of course, the angle is a 14-year-old professional, blah, blah, blah. That's how it goes. But you got to be, as a guy who's helped build this Union franchise, that has to be great that you're seeing your team out there on a national level for a story like this.
It's awesome. He did the Today Show this morning. I texted with Brendan Sullivan, his dad, yesterday, and just told him, complimented him how well Cavan handled it, because the kid is humble and down to earth, and he's very marketable, and did a great job. I just said, great job. Brendan said, yeah, thanks, special day. Now we're just back to normal, and him being a 14-year-old. And I texted back. Well, I said, not too normal. It's just led Sports Center. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
It's different. This is different. It's unique. There's no book or manual to read it. The one thing he does have is an incredible support system in the family. The mother and father are really who really develops the player. You know what I mean? I really believe that. And it's no coincidence the kids that come from good families have the opportunity now to play at the highest level. And we'll do our best here in Philly with the Union to create an incredible environment for Cavan, win things here, and when the moment's right and he becomes even too good for this league, the sky's the limit for him.
I thought you had one of the best quotes I've seen from a coach yesterday, and I'm not kidding you, when you were talking about Cavan signing and you said, first and foremost, he's going to be a kid. And then you got into how the professional life goes. I thought that was tremendous, Jim. I wanted to commend you for that. But let's look ahead, all right? Let's the Cavan stuff, not putting it aside, but you also have a team that you have to prepare for a game for tomorrow night. Where is your team right now? How are you feeling about them? And you have Orlando City coming in tomorrow night.
Yeah, that leads to another comment that I would add. Quinn Sullivan is his older brother. He's only 19, and he's dominating our league right now as well. So he's got a brother in the locker room that's going to help us, take on a good Orlando team this weekend. Look, we're in a phase of the season where we started the season good, but there's another level that this group can go to. Like all things, Bob, with injuries, timing, cohesiveness of a group, we're not clicking on all cylinders right now. We're scoring a lot of goals, which I'm fine with, but we have to tighten up defensively. And I think we all recognize and know that that's our foundation. Defense wins championships. Everyone loves goals, and the offense is exciting, but maybe I'm just an old defender, but I believe very much in getting back to the basics of good team defending, and our group understands that, and it starts tomorrow at Subaru Park, getting a result against a good Orlando team.
And, Jim, what do you think it's going to take early on in these matches for you guys to get it going defensively and kind of give yourself that ability to take that lead and be able to take command of a game? Because that's been, over the last month, kind of a struggle for this group.
It's a great comment, and it's something that I've actually talked too much about, guys. I think I'm jinxing it. So this week I took a different approach. I didn't even bring up the start of the game, and not conceding first. All I talked about was let's have let's have a very consistent 90 minutes. Let's play Union soccer for 90 minutes. The results will take care of itself if we just get back to doing that. But I may be guilty of talking about not conceding first, and it's happened so many games in a row now, and we showed great heart to come back and win games and come back and tie games, but we're at our best when we score first, and then the floodgates open and we can dominate teams. So that's how we're built. That's our DNA. So taking the opposite approach this week, guys, and maybe not mention it in the locker room like I normally would.
Well, another team that's mentioning right now slow starts is this Orlando City team. When you look at the early season struggles for them and what they've been through, what sticks out when you just watch what they've done so far this season?
Yeah, they have a ton of individual talent, and it's always dangerous when talent hasn't quite broken out this year. So the message to my guys is let's not be the team that gets them going. So let's really be physical with them. Let's be in their face. Let's take away the individual attackers that they have, and we know in Subaru Park we're going to get our chances to score goals. So that's been the messaging to the group. We don't want to give them any life at all. So again, as ruthless as it sounds in pro sports, it's about putting your foot on their neck and not letting them get any hope or confidence and being a little bit ruthless, especially in our home field.
Union coach Jim Curtin joining us on the Comcast Business Hotline. Jim, I got a general sports question for you because I know what a sports nut you are and how much that Sixers series hurt you, all of that. We were talking this morning here in the office about can you root for a team that you generally would never root for. We had an argument back and forth, and it was a case of what if the Knicks play the Celtics? Do you find yourself rooting for the Celtics? Do you watch sports and always root for a side? Or I take them in. I told the guys, I just take games in, and I root for like a story. I don't have to root for a team. How do you take them in?
Yeah, well, look, I'm a Sixers fan first and foremost. So when I was getting all the texts, like, aren't you happy the Villanova guys are doing well for the Knicks? I'm like, no, I hate them.
Good man.
That's the reality of that one. Is there an element of the Knicks when I watch them play that I go, God, if some of these guys were on our team, we'd all love them. You know what I mean? We hate them now when we watch them because, you know, what the Hart kid's doing, just playing every minute, and he grinds and he plays the right way. Brunson is very hateable to watch, you know, when he's playing against your team, but you're like, Jesus, the kid plays hard, and DiVincenzo as well. So it is tough, man. But no, I'm more of I root for my team. I'm not I don't get into the mindset of, you know, well, maybe sometimes people want the team that beat them to win the whole thing, so it justifies something. I just don't like to lose. I hate losing so much that I don't even get into that. Once my team's out, I'm furious, and I hope we bounce back next year with a stronger group. That was a tough series, though.
Yeah,
Maxey took big steps, though. Maxey took some big steps. I really do. I did see that, which was fun to watch. He's fearless, man. I love how he plays.
He is fun to watch, as is your Union team. Jim, I want to let you know, the other guy asking questions here, Ray Dunn, will be calling your game on this station tomorrow night. So if you get a win, you might be getting Ray into a full-time job with that. As a good luck charm.
We'll take him every time, and he told me he's doing tomorrow, and we look forward to it. It'll be good. We'll give him some goals to cheer about.
That's what we like to hear. Jim, listen, thanks so much for taking a couple minutes. You know I always enjoy talking to you, and we will do it again in the future.
Thanks so much for having me on, guys. Keep up the great work.
All right, thanks so much. Jim Curtin joining us from your Philadelphia Union. You know, it's pretty cool, like a sport, like soccer in this city, Bill. It comes and people are sniggering, no soccer, whatever. Jim knew that as well as anybody when he took over being head coach of the Union. And talking to him when he first took over to talking to him now, it's amazing and what a huge hand he had in building the Union. Now, look, there's still many sports people that are like, soccer's not for me. Understand it. I was a guy like that growing up. Soccer wasn't my sport. Then my kids started to play, and then my kids got pretty good at it. And like I said, it's so funny. This Sullivan kid's grandfather coached my son in high school. So, again, it all comes together. But it is pretty cool to talk to a guy who not only grew a team, but grew a sport in this city the way Jim Curtin has. It's the likes I've never really seen.
Yeah, it is pretty impressive. And you talked about growing up. I was a football player, ice hockey player, baseball player. So I never really was into soccer either. But I went down to a Union game a couple years ago, and you talk about a fun atmosphere. That place is wild.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. We'll have to get together and all of us go down to a game maybe on a Saturday night or something like that one night, because we've done it a couple times as shows, gone down and watched some Union games, and they are just a lot of fun. 1:16 here at the Fanatic. What we're talking about today is the Eagles' new coordinators. Now, they're older, but they're new. Older in experience than what they had previously when we're talking about Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore. We've dipped into it a little bit. Bill, just like a synopsis coming out of it, and I'll start with a Vic Fangio. People kind of heard him probably for the first time yesterday, and talking about what he has here and what he might want to get here. Your overall synopsis of what Vic Fangio might mean to this defense when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles this year coming up.
I think they're going to be a better defense. I think, like I said earlier in the show, I think it's going to be harder for them to be worse than they were. But you're getting a guy who built the defense you've been trying to run for the last few seasons. So that in of itself is going to be an upgrade. But I love to go back to, there was an article written in 2019. ESPN did an interview of Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and Matt LaFleur, three of the best offensive-minded coaches in the NFL. All three of them were asked, which defense is the most difficult to read and attack? Every one of them said Vic Fangio's defense.
Wow.
So to me, you're getting a guy who has built a defense, whether you agree with the concepts or not, whether you agree with that bend but don't break concept, it's a tough defense to beat. And he has had a lot of success everywhere he's gone. And I do expect there not to be any confusion in your defense when it comes to assignments, where players need to be. That's something you saw a lot last year. You're not going to see that with Vic Fangio.
I labeled the defense as suspect in my eyes. How would you label the defense for this coming year in one word, Bill, as Vic Fangio comes in to take over the reins of a very much changed defensive unit?
What was the question?
How would you label them?
How would I label this defense?
Yeah, for this coming season. I labeled it as suspect. They still are suspect to me, where, to me, there's a lot of questions when it comes to this defense. Do you think there's another way to label them going into this season?
No, I've been saying a bunch of question marks. So I'm right there with you when you talk about suspect, because the one area that you felt good about was probably the edge rusher position. Well, then they go and they traded Hassan Reddick. So now they put a big question mark on your edge rushers. You look at the D tackles. Well, Fletcher Cox retired. You hope it's not a question mark, but we don't know how a Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, Jordan Davis getting more playing time, how they're going to perform. Linebacker remains a question mark. Safety. Yeah, you brought in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but who's the other safety? I'm excited about Sidney Brown, but tore his ACL in Week 18.
Yeah.
Reed Blankenship, up and down, question mark. You look at the cornerback position. That's the position that I didn't think was as much of a question mark when you got guys like Darius Slay and you draft Quinyon Mitchell. You still have Keely Ringo coming back. We'll see what we have in Isaiah Rodgers. You brought back Avonte Maddox, Zach McPherson. There's a lot of people there. But when you look at the defense as a whole, a lot of could-be's, right? A lot of could-be's where, wow, they could be really good if Devin White is the guy he was his first 2 years in Tampa. Well, they could be really good if Quinyon Mitchell can step in week one, game one, and be a stud. Or they could be really good if Keely Ringo is able to grow in his second year. But there's just a lot of could-be. So suspect is a good word.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't. My confidence level isn't there. I put it at suspect, and that might be even a little high, but that's where we'll put it. All right, Ray, we have a couple of texts. We talked earlier about Caitlin Clark is going to make her WNBA debut next week. She debuted at home last night in an exhibition game, and it drew over 13,000 people. So we put the question out there. What's one of the bigger debuts that you remember? And Ray, we have some texts on it.
Dustin from Boyertown saying Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani.
Mike Trout's debut. Now, Ohtani was cool, and it was more recent and all that. It's funny. Trout, a local kid, obviously you're looking forward to. Wow. I don't remember Mike Trout's debut. It was, probably out there. But that's good, especially for local people. Yeah, that's Ohtani's I remember, absolutely.
Andy Z checking in with the debut of the 45 jersey when MJ came back.
Go ahead. That is terrific.
That is, but
I hate
that jersey didn't have a lot of success. They had to switch back to 23 for them to go win their three-peat again.
Yeah, he came out with the 45. I think the first game was against the Knicks, if I'm not mistaken, when he came back from all that. And Michael Jordan takes court, and you look at it, and you're like, nah, that's not right. It was like tasting bad milk. Like, no, that just isn't right. And I hated it. He had a really good re-debut.
Return.
And it was cool. I do remember that.
Well, talking about someone who didn't look right in a different number, a debut I looked forward to was when Joe Montana went to the Kansas City Chiefs, and he went from number 16 to number 19. Just didn't look the same in a number 19.
No, it didn't. And he still had some magic left. He had some good games with Kansas City, but yeah, that one never felt right either. All right, when we get back, we'll take your calls. Hold on. We'll get to you talking about a lot of different things. Also, our new fun little thing that we do on Fridays, it's our last week report. It might be some bloopers that we came up with through the week. I even think we have someone in there that's going to be making their debut on last week. So we'll check all that out. Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5, The Fanatic. Welcome back, 1:30 here at the Fanatic. Hope you're having a great Friday, leading into the weekend. I just got some good news, Bill. I got a text from my sister, Carol, who let me know that she is going to be a grandmother again. So congratulations to my godson and nephew, Matt, his wife, Kelly. They are expecting their third child. Exciting times as my sister gets older, but I don't. It's so weird. I don't know how that works. Dom, Tasty Cake Dom, on the cell. You're on the Fanatic. What's going on, Dom? Dom. No way. Did we catch Dom taking a break from us? Try us back again, Dom. Sorry about that, buddy. All right, Ray. I kind of go into this hesitantly because nobody likes to be made fun of, joked about, proven wrong, however you want to state it. But it is a weekly feature that we are doing now here at the station. And without hesitation, let's get you to the last week report.
All right, so we got to take accountability for all that we did. Of course, this inspired by the NBA's last 2-minute report. Over the last week, we've made some mistakes, and it's only right for us to look back and see what exactly we did. It was a pretty clean Monday for us. I'll give us credit where credit is due for that, except for you, Bob Cooney.
Oh, come on.
There was one mistake. And you've enjoyed this man on the baseball team. In fact, you texted me all caps with this guy's name earlier this week. If only you were able to say it right the first time.
And I'd go Whitfield at second?
That would be Whit Merrifield, Bob. Whit Merrifield, the name you're looking for there.
I'd like to cut things down a little bit. You know, in Philly, you go from you all or everyone to yous. So I just went, I went there. All right, that's on me.
That's not how his name works, but sure, yeah. Whitfield it is. Now, someone that has not made their way onto this as of yet. She had been avoiding it like the plague. One, Amy Fadul. And Amy, I'm sorry, the next two are you.
Oh, two?
Yes. So this one comes late in the show on Tuesday. We had someone call because they wanted the 76ers to go get some European players.
A lot of the European players, they're going to go early.
She struggled with that a little bit. Yeah,
European. She did. Now, she struggled with saying that earlier in that show. It is new for Amy. She's doing radio for the first time. Sometimes you just don't quite remember that you got to pop that mic on when you want to say something.
Christopher Sanchez on the mound tonight, so a lot of fun going on. It's always fun.
Always fun.
There's always fun. It's even more fun when we can hear you, Aim, right?
Yeah, that's an important button. The on button is an important button.
It is, yeah, It just is
user error.
That happens to all of us.
It happens to all of us, Amy. But, we had some complaints that apparently Amy doesn't make any mistakes. So we were maybe a little bit more careful to see if there were any this week. Speaking of mistakes, and you know what? I'm not going to spare this man. This man came out and tried to say something against me this week, and I didn't appreciate it on our show. And that's one Uncle Frank. And you know what? I would usually let it slide for a caller. But for Uncle Frank, I'm going to pull this one out. He made a mistake that you've made a number of times, Bob. Who plays left field for the Philadelphia Phillies?
That's Brandon Marsh.
Mark, Brad Marsh.
Come on, Uncle Frank. We got to be better than that. Of course, he's not the only one this week that messed up some names. Moving on to Wednesday. It's one that you just keep making, Bob.
Kyle Oubre, third star. I know. All right. I got Kelly Oubre. That's right. When I first started here, I used to call Carson Wentz Carson Palmer. Like my first couple of days.
Really?
Here. No idea why. Probably nerves. But, yeah, I apologize, Kelly Oubre, and hopefully you're back so I can not mispronounce your name anymore.
See, maybe it was your fault because Carson Palmer had the ACL tear, was never the same. Either was Carson Wentz.
Wow. Look at that.
Me.
Spin that on Bob.
Bill just threw it right at me.
Yeah, we're going to continue with Bob.
Welcome back. Noontime out.
Noontime hour was the phrase we were looking for.
That's tough. Yeah.
I was not spared this week. The updates are really what get me, and my voice just died in one this week. Stay hot. I'm Ray Dunn. This update is brought to you by AAA.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. We got it.
Seemed like you turned into a 90-year-old man real quick.
Yeah, I did turn into a 90-year-old man. I did not turn into Bob Cooney because he's not a 90-year-old man. I didn't make the age joke. See, that was a nice way of working around it. By the way, you're looking for a point guard this offseason. Who are you looking for?
Point guard here in Tyrus Jones. That'd be Tyus Jones.
That would be Tyus Jones.
I corrected it right after that.
Did you?
I did. I went Tyrus and then I said I mean Tyus.
The cut doesn't say that, but we'll see. Bill, you had a chance to fill in that number one chair yesterday. And, we start the 10 o'clock hour with that giveaway as we give away $1,000. Who's it brought to you by?
5 The Fanatic signing bonus is presented by Rand Smear.
Rand Schmear.
The funny thing is Rand's actually a friend of mine. I've met him a few times.
Oh, boy.
Well,
Yeah.
Those are the best ones. That was good.
And
I
hey-
actually heard that live yesterday.
Very good. Rand Schmear.
Yeah.
And one more for you. Bob, we had the coordinators yesterday.
We did.
Who is the defensive coordinator of your Philadelphia
That'd be
Eagles?
Vic Fangio. Who wants to talk a little Nick Fangio? I said Nick. Oh,
You
my
said
God.
Nick.
Was that today?
That was today.
Wow, good catch by you.
Yeah, we're
it
always
would've been
working
nice
here.
If you corrected me on the fly there, but
Hey, that's the last week report.
all right. Good job, Ray,
See-
once again.
You know what? Now, whenever we make a mistake, you could see Ray's eyes light up.
Oh, I see him grab pen and write it down right away. You know, what time is it? 1:35 Friday. Okay, we're going to get this one. Good job by you, Ray. Really appreciate it. Also, Ray, we have been getting some debut texts. Did you say, do we have more of them, or is that from the last?
Yes, we do have more of them.
Okay. What do
This
we got?
one is, I think, my favorite because it is Lou in Northern California checking in. Most anticipated non-Philly debut was for a negative reason. He could not wait for J.D. Drew
I
to
knew that was
debut
coming.
to root for the failure.
Wow. I didn't have that animosity. I like, okay, fine. You don't want to play here. Let it come back to haunt you. I didn't feel that so much. Did you?
No, but along those lines, I'm really looking forward to Cutter Gauthier coming to Philadelphia.
That's going to be interesting. That is going to be really interesting. Yeah.
Flyers fans, man, we don't forget.
No, and I would love it if Michkov was here when this all happens, too. Get all his Russian stuff taken care of. Get him over there. We need Michkov out there.
I got all excited. I saw Michkov wearing a Flyers hockey shirt working out the other day.
Oh, yeah? All right.
Could that be a sign?
They're
Could that be a
sending him
sign?
the equipment. That's what I like. Any more, Ray, on the debuts? Or
Yeah, we do. So new texter here checking in with Bo Jackson.
Oh,
In which sport?
That means double meaning there for you.
Yeah.
Ray's probably too young to remember, but you remember all the Bo knows. Remember all those commercials? Bo knows?
Yeah, I thought I'll never forget when Bo Jackson struck out one time and broke the bat over his knee.
Oh my goodness, I remember that.
Some of the throw. I remember the home run he hit in the All-Star game to dead center field. I think it was off of a Rick Russell, one of those. Like he was unbelievably spectacular. I was trying to think of some more debuts as we were going along in the show. Did any more come to your guys' minds? And you can include Philly also. This isn't so much of a debut, but since I was there and watched it with my friend Rock and his two nephews, the first start of Randall Cunningham. Now, Randall came to the Eagles, and he was replacing Ron Jaworski on third down only, right? And going in there and rushing and getting first downs and not throwing the ball all that much. And then they made the move, and I believe it was against the Rams that he made his NFL debut as a starting quarterback. That's one that kind of sticks out to me because of what went on after that. He had a horrible debut. It was like a drizzly day, and I think he was like 6 for 15, something really bad like that. But any more debuts come to your mind?
Well, you talked about Michael Jordan, or we got a texter talking about when Michael Jordan made his return. For me, it was when Mike Tyson made his return against Peter McNeely. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah, Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Do you remember the video still kind of is around social media when Peter McNeely, right before he comes out of the locker room, gives this emotional speech, how this is for his father and his grandfather, and he names all these people. He gets all teared up, and then he comes out and they have to throw the towel in, 30 seconds in?
Yeah, that was, yeah.
But I was excited to see Tyson. I mean, that is one of the craziest what ifs. If Tyson didn't go to prison, how good would he have become as the champ? Because he was unbeatable before that.
He when he was in his prime, it was amazing. Like I remember a story being up in New York, and my brother lived up in New York and up in Queens, and it was a Saturday afternoon. Now, Ray, this is obviously before your time, but on Saturday afternoon on Wild World of Sports, a lot of times they would have pro fights on there. And on this Saturday they were, and Tyson was like, I don't know, 12-0, something like that, and he was knocking everybody out. And so we got, all excited. Boom, we're going to be at the bar at 4:30, going to watch this Mike Tyson fight. Blah, blah. I swear to God, we sat down and we were up again. It was over that quick. And that's what Mike Tyson was. And you're right. What could have been with him?
I say he was unbeatable obviously he got big
Yeah,
upset by Buster
Buster Douglas,
Douglas, but that was just crazy. But yeah, he was fun to watch. Boxing isn't the same anymore.
Man, I loved boxing growing up. I was thinking of that because I remember Sugar Ray Leonard winning in the Olympics, and you couldn't wait. And he had all the showmanship of a boxer you would ever want, besides being a great boxer. I couldn't wait for his debut, so I was thinking of him. But I know our audience age that they probably don't remember much of a Sugar Ray Leonard. Ray, what about you? Any more debuts that you remember, think of? Like somebody said to me one that they couldn't stand. And that was Dawkins debuting as a Denver Bronco.
Yeah,
And that
remember that one.
turned his stomach.
There was another one that Kevin and Pine Hill checked in with Bryce Harper, and that was big just for how much attention he got at a young age. We talked to Jim Curtin in this hour about Sullivan and about the attention they're getting from 14-year-old. Bryce Harper had attention on him from the time he was 16. Everyone, the Sports Illustrated cover. Him finally coming up to the bigs. And that was an interesting time for the Nationals, both with Harper and then I think Strasburg we got earlier. Like they had a couple of really signature debuts. And I think that one was one that also came to mind for, again, non-Philly.
Yeah. I remember Joel Embiid hitting his first basket as a Sixer, and it was on a Olajuwon type move where he was about at the foul line and did the spin and back and the fadeaway jumper. I was covering the game. I remember the crowd going nuts there. Iverson's return to Philadelphia. I was covering the team then. I've never heard that place so loud.
When he kissed the logo?
They introduced, when Matt Cord introduced, now he came back as a Denver Nugget. That night was pretty spectacular. I was there that night also. And then the night that he came back as a Sixer, I mean, that was deafening. That was pretty remarkable. His return, even though a debut wasn't older. Yeah, so there's some good ones out there. If you have some before we end up here, we'd love to hear from you, 610-632-0975. Also, we've gotten a lot of really good stories today about moms and sports. I told a couple, we had callers call in, let them know their funniest mom stories when it relates to sports. If you have one, you want to chime in before we get out of here, 610-632-0975. When we're all done here today, 2 o'clock, you got Tyrone and Ricky on the best show ever. In the meantime, we'll be back at you in a little bit. This is Middays, Bob Cooney, 97.5 The Fanatic. Welcome back as we finish out midday this week. Bob Cooney along with Bill Colarulo. We got Ray Dunn producing. Today's a producer. Tomorrow, he is your play-by-play announcer for the Philadelphia Union. That's right. Tomorrow, 7:30, turn on this station. Listen to the Philadelphia Union as they take on Orlando. And the sweet tones that will be coming through your airwaves will be that of Ray Dunn. That's right. Ray Dunn is going to be doing the play-by-play tomorrow night. Very excited to hear him, as well as he is excited to do it. Tyrone has given him a standing ovation in his studio as we speak. All right, we've been talking today about a lot of different things. Debuts, what are some of them that you remember? We've been talking about mom stories in honor of Mother's Day on Sunday as it relates to sports. And Tracy in Philly has one. Tracy, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hi, how are you, Bob and Bill?
Good, Tracy. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
I just wanted to share this story. My mom is the biggest Julius Erving fan that ever lived. And when I was younger, we were leaving the gallery downtown, and we were pulling out of the parking lot, and my mom was digging in her purse, and I'm looking ahead, and Dr. J and his son walked in front of our car. I'm like, Mom, look. When I tell you, she peeled out, no regard for any pedestrian in the way, and pulled up, and she rolls down the window and leans out, and she's like, hi, Doc. And he turns around, and he waves. He was like, good afternoon, ladies. When I tell you that is the greatest moment of her life, besides giving birth to me.
Tracy, how old were you when this happened?
Oh, my God. Probably about 11 or 12.
Were you embarrassed, or did you just, like,
Not
soak
at
it
all.
all
I'm
in?
As starstruck as she was.
Oh, is that right? That's cool.
Yes. So, yeah, she loved it, and she even let me cut school the day of the parade after we won the championship. Best mom ever.
Oh, that's awesome. Tracy, I hope your mom has a great Mother's Day. I hope you do, too. And to all out there, we wish everyone just the best. It's funny, she talks about taking off school. My dad one time wrote a note to my dad was a writer, and had a pretty creative mind. So he wrote a note for my principal one time saying that Bob will not be in school tomorrow because he has to go see the doctor. They didn't know that I was going to the Sixers game to go see Dr. J play. But
so he didn't lie.
He didn't lie. My dad was not, a very religious man. He would not lie, but that's how I wrote it. When I tell you that I was shaking and probably red as could be when I handed that note to Sister Elizabeth to tell her that I wouldn't be in, although my dad wrote it out, I knew it was kind of a lie. But then I came to the calmness when I said, wait a minute, I'm not doing anything wrong.
Now, this isn't an age joke. This is a legitimate question. Back when you were in school, did the nurses used to hit you over the fingers with rulers and stuff?
There's still talk that my
the nuns. I said nurse.
The nuns, yeah. 150, right? There was stories that Sister Mary Leonard, our third grade teacher, may have done that once in a while. I was like I was a good, quiet kid in school. I didn't raise much trouble or anything like that. So I remember one time walking away from school and getting in a little bit of trouble.
See, I was always in trouble.
Were you?
But not for being a bad kid. It's because I love to talk, and I never stopped talking. And now look what I do for a living, right?
I'll tell you and Kincade, huh? That's unbelievable. That's the last time I'll compare you to. But, yeah. No, John talks about that a lot, that he was constantly getting in trouble because of his mouth. But we do hope everyone has a great Mother's Day weekend, as we had some terrific sports mom stories. It was funny. Yesterday I was with some friends, basketball friends and all, and we were talking about parents and how you watch games, because I brought up the subject about, how I love to see how people watch games differently. And I've put myself in that category of how I watched it as a player, how I watched it as a coach, how I watched it as a parent, when I watch games with referees, how they watch it different, all of that. And one of the guys I was talking to was actually my old high school coach. He says, I think sometimes we can tell a lot about players by the way their parents act during a game.
Interesting.
And it went right into my feeding of, wow, another way of watch. Because I do know when my kids were playing, I certainly watched the game differently than I'm watching just any other game, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because you just reminded me this morning before we came on the air, Connor Thomas kept trying to get you to commit who you were going to root for in the Knicks, Celtics, Eastern Conference Finals. If it gets there.
If it gets there, yeah.
Cavs with a big win last night, and you kept telling him, I don't root. I don't root. He kept giving you other analogies. But what if the Dallas Cowboys are playing? I don't root, Connor. But what if?
I said you can state it 1,000 different ways, dude. My answer's the same. And I don't. I don't root. I don't have to root for Celtics Knicks. I'll watch those games and every second of every minute of those games, and I'll watch it with the enjoyment of watching a basketball game. I have really enjoyed this Knicks Pacers series because I've really enjoyed how the basketball has been played and what adjustments one team does to another in order to try to win those games.
I do think you're in the minority there, though.
I do, too, and I admitted that, right, Bill? Didn't I? Yeah.
Yes, you did. And I think most fans, and this is why, in addition to wanting to win money, I think a lot of the reasons why fans enjoy putting wagers on sports is because it gives you a rooting interest sometimes in an otherwise sporting event that you wouldn't have the rooting interest, because people do like, and I'm like that too. When I watch a game, I like to have a rooting interest. I like to try to figure out why I want a certain team to win. Usually I root for the underdog.
Yeah.
Philly, Rocky, right? We always want the underdog. So that's what I'm usually doing, but I do like to find a rooting interest.
Yeah, 1 o'clock hours brought to you by Ferguson HVAC Line Conklin. Attention HVAC contractors, for equipment, parts, and supplies for every heating and cooling job. Visit one of Ferguson's counter locations in Bensalem, King of Prussia, Pennsauken, or Westchester. All right, we want to thank you all for joining us this week. A fun week that we had. I want to thank Bill and Amy for sitting in for me yesterday, as I had a previous obligation that I had to take care of. So I appreciate you guys for doing that. Don't forget, you can't forget, the best show ever is coming up next, of course, with Tyrone and Ricky. But you got Ray Dunn tomorrow night making his Union debut. Talk about debuts. As play-by-play announcer, it'll be right here on this station, 97.5 The Fanatic at 7:30. So go Union, go Ray, rooting for you all. We'll talk to you on Monday. Thanks for joining in.